What is up, trainers, and welcome back to another exciting day of the Pokemon Unite Asia Champions League East Asia. My name's Contra. Here joining with me is Danley, and we are your casters for the entirety of the evening.
Yes, and it's week 2 of the action here for the Pokemon Unite Asia Champions League. I'm really excited, Contra, because we got just a sneak peek of what the competition looked like for day 1. Now, of course, with an entire week for these trainers to research their opponents, to start practicing some potential new cheese picks, I'm curious to see what we're going to be seeing this week for East Asia. Is it going to be the continuous domination of the usual Pokemon? Is it just going to be constant bans on Urshifu, Sableye, Dodrio, or are we going to be starting to see some more crazy things come out?
I really do hope that we see something that's a lot more unique than what we have seen for the past week. I mean, we've already been wowed through all these sort of picks that they come up with, but at least the meta has been shaping up. And for those of you who may have actually missed out on the past week and you want to keep up to speed, go ahead and head over to this website on your screen right now, 2023 Pokemon Unite-acl.com/en, where you could basically get every single details, not only for East Asia, but also for Southeast Asia and also the India region. So with that being said, Natalie, I know that you are absolutely stoked for all the games that's going to be happening really soon. And we've already seen so many different styles of play. I believe that East Asia does feel some of the world's best trainers around the globe. So with that being said, the Titans once again will be battling it all out. We have players coming in from so many different regions, and we definitely want to see what's the power levels going to look like, because you talked about Japan and Korea, and now even the Taiwan region has been stepping up. And also, of course, before we even get to that part, let's of course thank all of our sponsors that have made all of this possible. And the Pokemon Unite Asia Champions League East Asia League is proudly sponsored by Meiji Almond Chocolate and You Treasure. So, of course, you guys have already had a taste of Meiji before, and if you hasn't, this year has marked the 60th anniversary of the launch of Meiji Almond Chocolate. Only carefully selected beans are slowly roasted to create an aromatic flavor, and the chocolate that wraps the almonds is high-quality milk chocolate that only Meiji can produce. It has a mild taste that enhances the savory flavor of the nuts, and I hope that you all will get to enjoy it. And if you see it on your screen, you can tell that the ring is pretty much special, because You Treasure is a jewelry company that was established to shape out the life of its fans and to provide them with joy. They offer everything from fashion jewelry, such as Pokemon, to bridal jewelry. If you are ever in Japan, please stop by our store in Tokyo.
Oh man, my mouth is watering after seeing Meiji, and I am pretty keen to get some of that Pokemon merch, Pokemon jewelry. I mean, the ring looks really great. I'm really excited to see what kind of stuff is actually on the website here for our sponsors. But thank you so much to all of our sponsors. If it wasn't for them, I don't think we would actually be able to be having so many exciting games here for the Pokemon Unite Asia Champions League East Asia region. Now, Contra, we are going to be moving on in just a second to explain again the format, the schedule for all of our viewers, so that everyone's up to date. But before that, I do want to remind everybody watching on all of our streaming platforms that we currently have a special giveaway for all of our amazing viewers tuning into the broadcast. This giveaway is exclusive to Twitch as well, so if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube but you are keen to try get some of these goodies, head on over to Twitch. So all you have to do is make sure you have a Twitch account and then register on the stream elements using your Twitch account. Once you've registered, you're going to start collecting points just from watching the broadcast. And all you have to do is, once you have enough points, you're going to be able to redeem those points for some amazing goodies in our store. Now, I do want to remind people that we do have a limited quantity of items available for the giveaway. So you're going to have to be quick. Make sure you watch every single broadcast. This includes East Asia, Southeast Asia, and India. Watch every single broadcast and you'll have a better chance of being able to pick up one of those amazing rewards. rewards. Now, Contra, moving on, let's take a look at our qualified teams. Very quickly, East Asia, the region that we're looking at for today, we have Eternity, High Five, No Show, Secret Ship, and T2.
Yeah, it definitely will be very exciting to see how much more can Team High Five actually bring today, because they will be challenging Eternity later on. So both teams have managed to secure themselves 3 points apiece. I believe they're about to set the record straight. And of course, not forgetting, we've had action coming in from Southeast Asia as well as India. Now you can also take a look at the whole tournament schedule of when and where your favorite teams will be playing throughout the course of the first stage. And first, starting off here, we definitely want to take a look at East Asia once again on the 13th of January. Eternity takes on High Five for our very first match, and then later on we have No Show versus T2. And if you want to also join on board to not only win those prizes, but also catch every single Pokemon Unite action, there's Escape 5 versus Secret Rare, and Rise versus Team MYS happening tomorrow for Southeast Asia, and on Sunday, it'll definitely be Marcus Gaming versus True Reapers, God Train versus Team Zone.
It's going to be super exciting. And if you didn't manage to catch all of the action last week, we do recommend you go back onto the YouTube channel or even the Twitch channel. Go back and watch those games. We had some really exciting matches that we highly recommend to everyone that didn't catch anything. Now, very quickly, here's the tournament format. We are currently in stage 1, where the teams are playing in a group stage, which is going to be based on region. So right now we have East Asia, Southeast Asia, and India. These teams are going to compete against each other at least once to collect points. If you manage to win the series, you get 3 points. If you lose, if you don't manage to take a game at all in the series, you get no points. If you manage to win one, you get a single point. Depending on how many points you get, going into the second stage, you're going to be put into seeds. We are going to have a graphic later on to better explain those seeds, but after the seeding phase and after that second stage, the top 2 teams will then fly to Malaysia for the grand final. So we're going to have the final 6 teams going up against each other to see who will be the champion. And of course, they're not just competing for the champion title, we also have a prize pool that the teams are playing for.
That's right. On the second stage, they will be able to receive $5,000 if they end up on the top seed overall. And on second place, it's $2,500 to be won. And also on the third spot, we will be giving away $1,000 to the third seeding team. Now, in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, that's where they'll be fighting for a lion's share of a whole lot of US dollars, where the champions of the entirety of the ACL will walk away with $30,000 richer.
Yep, so that's the big lion's share of the prize pool everyone is gunning for. There's a lot of money on the line, but also a crown at stake. Very quickly, here are the tournament rules for the ACL League. We're going to be playing the standard 10-minute matches. It's going to be best of 3 for the first stage. Of course, it's 5v5. It's a standard game of Pokemon Unite. We are going to be playing at Thea Sky Ruins with the draft mode enabled, so both teams will be allowed to ban a Pokemon, and then they'll be able to pick up 5 Pokemon to play in that matchup. There's no item limits, there's no medal limits either, and no Pokemon restrictions. Every single Pokemon is playable, every moveset is playable. Nothing is banned. So now it's going to come down to the team and players' skill when it comes to these matches, Contra.
Exactly, and for those of you who have joined in for the very first time, what exactly is draft mode? So both teams will start off with the ban phase, where each respective team will ban 1 Pokemon apiece, and any Pokemon that was picked by either teams will mean that it will not be available for the enemy team as well. So the pick phase will happen with the first team getting the priority pick the first go, and the second team will be getting 2 picks, and we will follow the same flow order until the final pick goes in for the second team. And once that is done, is where both teams will get to re-strategize and switch up the Pokemons that they've been able to prioritize. Therefore, this is where they'll be able to shake up how they want to play each match. So definitely, it has been pretty exciting to see this 2023 season go down, and it definitely is very refreshing to see all these contenders out there just being so creative with their drafts.
Yeah, being creative with the drafts and also being able to pick Pokemon that might be able to be better than future Pokemon that could be picked. But before that, let's take a look at the highlights and sort of recap what happened in last week's matches.
找机会看江宁他们，我再让我刷一集，拜托再让我刷一集吧。这边 poke 还不错哦。我有一个后单的，推到墙壁，顶得住吗？哇，顶得住，把路力倒了，完蛋，情况不太对劲，而且路力冲过头了。九尾这个位置也没有到特别好，还没说踩2个，好像要逆转了。关键的一波发出力，嘟嘟力也迷路了，完了，嘟嘟力真是哇，完蛋了，出大事了。
하는데 그런 부분을 시크릿십도 알고 있고요. 자, 싸우나요?
오히려 먼저 들어간
것 같은데요. 헤론이 일단 HP가 적습니다.
근데 뒤쪽에서 두트리어가
잠만 보고 또 틀어 누웠어요. 또.
진짜 즐기다 즐겨. 그러면 이거 랭크자 막 타봐야겠어. 이게 전투에서는 어쨌든 쉽지 않은 상황이고 이게 2명이 없는 상황에서 지속력이 부족하거든요. 지금.
그래도 끝까지 희망을 놓지 않습니다.
짓밟기 쓰면서 지금 어떻게든 버텨주고 있는 하나카이긴 한데 나인테일도 좀 무리해서 왔습니다.
괜찮아요.
아니 하나카가 이거 슈퍼 캐리 하나요 지금?
Before the storm comes in, and here we go.
Shifu jumping into the fight. Miva trying to set up for the team, but so far they don't get an elimination. They do some big damage, and so far Eldegoss is down on the side of MYS. They do have, they've lost a lot of their sustain, and now it's going to be up to Dan. The block shenanigans, the high horsepower, but it looks like they're taking Pokemon down. They've actually lost their Alola Ninetales. It's really down to the Dullfox to do most of the damage here. Blissey and Dullfox. Can they maybe get the steal? Because we know Dullfox, it's got one of the highest damage skills in the game, and no, they will not get the steal off, unfortunately. And now it's the Urshihan, but even then it's not enough, because look at this, Winnie's going to score 100! Winnie! He may have just secured this game, but look at the top lane, we're starting to see those points in. The knockouts are happening, 10 seconds to go. Can Renaissance score these points? 16 from the Mammoth. Is there any more? I don't think they can get it. 22 from the Cramorant in base. This is too close. But I actually think
we gotta take a look. Who's gonna get it?
Renaissance
Oh my word!
They have done it. I thought the Cramorant.
But then again, these are the last few 30 seconds, and if something can happen, it's gonna be here. Otherwise, True Rippers, well, they might just not see a good scoreline for themselves. Sap is quite close to Rakazar, but we'll have to see what can happen for himself as this. Oh my god, oh my god.
Rayquaza is super low.
It's the only question, 50% HP on Rayquaza. As Esituel has the entire space. What will Revenant do? That's the only question. They are trying, but
Revenant
will they be able to take it? Oh my god, Revenant!
To basically hold the fort while this Blissey is soaking all the damage, but this Tyranitar won't be able to survive. Look at how fast Camera basically goes into shred their HP bar, and he's still doing it. That is a triple streak of knockout, and Renaissance will pave the way.
I am hyped, Contra. My heartbeat, I was at a resting heartbeat before those clips, and now I am back to 100. I didn't need my coffee anymore.
Well, I would say the same as well. And now we're getting ourselves ready for the matches that will be happening really soon. Now, but before we get to the matches, let's take a look at the East Asian League table, where Eternity as well as High Five are both tied in first place with 3 points apiece. But High Five does have a little bit more priority in the standings, as they have managed to win with a 2-0 record against T2. And Eternity went on a really close battle against Secret Ship. They still walk away with the full 3 points. But today is where we'll see a little bit more of a difference between both teams when we do collide.
Yeah, and then I think more importantly, we're going to finally see No Show. Now, for anyone that's tuning into the broadcast and are a little bit confused with No Show, that is a team Okay, that is definitely a team. It's not a no-show. But I am very keen to see how they're going to be playing in the East Asia League. Now, we did speak about the seedings earlier today. Now, what's happening is that the teams currently are in the first phase. They're playing for points, and depending on how many points you can get during the first phase, you're going to be seeded for the second stage. Now, the more points you have, the higher up the seeds you'll be. So first place will have the most points at the end of the first stage, and then 5th seed will get the lowest points total from that first stage. Now, essentially, the teams right now are trying to play for first seed because the first seed team automatically qualifies for Malaysia. I think that's the most important thing here, Contra. Second seed's okay. You're not guaranteed. It's okay, but you want that first seed.
That's right. That's automatically tickets to be secured and a whole lot of prize money. Now, I believe that we are ready to see what these two teams will be bringing forward when we hit into Taiwan Skyrunds. And starting off with today's match, we have Eternity versus High Five. So far, I believe that we've already seen a whole lot of great plays coming in from players like Hanaka as well as Heron. So I hope to see if they're going to change anything to adapt to the pacing of what High Five has to offer, which we both were absolutely surprised by the team from the Taiwan region.
Yes, now we are going to have a quick glance at some of the players competing on either of these teams. So let's start with Jandy on the side of Eternity on Contra's side. So the player to watch out for him is Hanaka. He likes to eat different kinds of food at the night market when he visits Kuala Lumpur, and he recommends steamed spare ribs.
Ooh, I love myself some steamed spare ribs too. So I believe that if he's gonna be coming down to Kuala Lumpur, we could absolutely eat together. So Ikura, he's the master of Snorlax, and I believe that he loves to eat too. So I wonder if High Five could basically pull off another massive win, especially with them showing the strongest run of a 2-0 record here in the Asia Champions League East Asia. Now, this is where I really do think that how much have they prepared within the course of a 1 week span, that, you know, things are going to be a little bit different, but you know what? Let's hit right into the draft as High Five is on the purple side and Eternity's starting on orange. So quickly as we go into the bans, Sable Eye as well as Mew will be prioritized in the ban. That leaves Urshifu available for High Five.
Yep, Urshifu is available, Scyther is available, and of course we're going to be getting an immediate Urshifu pickup on the side of High Five, whereas it looks like Scyther is going to be heading over to Eternity side here, and they're also going to pick up the Snorlax as well. So we've seen last week, teams that pick up Snorlax have a lot of success when it comes to initiation with the heavy slam, and then of course you've got the block, really annoying when you're trying to score those goals, and of course pushing you off those objectives. Now, second two picks are going to be the Alola Ninetales for High Five as well as the Blissey. Blissey's also been a rather popular support Contra, right? You've got the damage buff with the helping hand, you've got either soft boiled for healing, or you can even go for the safeguard if you want to prevent all of those stuns and disables. And this game, it's starting to look like a safeguard game because not only are you dealing with a annoying Snorlax, but now you've got the Aegis Slash on the side of Eternity. We've seen what this Pokemon can do, especially when he can slide into those backlines.
Wow, take a look at this, Danily. We finally get ourselves the Absol pick. You've been mentioning that it has fallen out of favor due to the presence of Scissor, but you know what matches up to Scissor? exactly the same type of pick. So High Five, they look pretty well balanced. They have a whole lot of great sustain and also enough DPS to work out a team fight. I believe that in this matchup, Eternity will definitely have to rely on Wolon to see if it could break through all the defenses of High Five.
Yeah, so very quickly before we do jump into this game, I think it's a good idea to recap what happened last week. So people that viewed the first stream for last week, which was essentially High Five's game, the one that they won 2-0, one thing that we really noted from this team is that they're very hyper-aggressive. And I think this was really exciting to see, especially from the Taiwan team, right? This is a team that came in from Opens. They did not play in the WCS. And for them to come in so strong into the competition, I don't think this is the lineup to do the same thing where they can invade, but I'm surprised that they are changing things up a bit.
Yeah, and quickly as we go, I really want to see, with so many options on the table, Eternity has opted to take the Snorlax away from Ikura as well, and High Five says, you know what, you take away that Snorlax, I'm going to answer with that Slowbro. So I wonder, is he going to be just as effective on this Pokemon?
Yeah, I want to know if it's going to be that Surf or Scald, right? Because you go for Scald if you want to do that damage as well as attack reduction, but then you go for Surf if you want to have the disables. And the lineup so far is pretty light on disables, right? You're mainly relying on that Urshifu for the shove. You've got the Absol mainly for damage, right? You don't really use Absol for any kind of CC. And of course, it looks like we are seeing our first rotation in that bottom lane, and Shinji straight away onto that Snorlax. And it looks like Heron is going to go down. They will get that elimination, but maybe at the cost of that Slowbro. Ikura's fine. You know, the Slowbro, he kind of forgot he took damage.
Yeah, and of course, that being the first knockout of the game, it was well calculated from High Five. Just look at how Ikura just extends all the way into the front. Now, he has to pull back, though. Finally, evolving into a Slowbro. Meanwhile, over at the top end of the map, we're seeing a huge dive onto Diffle as he's almost taken
Oh my
out.
goodness.
And immediately, the Lola Knights will get that knockout. Shinji scoring some points on top of it. That makes it 64 points for High Five, and they're looking for Jenny as well.
Yeah, Scyther wants to come into that top lane, but I mean, just with one Pokemon there, I think there'll be a high chance that Hanukkah could just be crit down by the Absol as well. So he does back down. I'm surprised that Hi-Fi are going to continue with this aggression. Of course, Absol thrives in this kind of environment. It's a very fast-paced Pokemon, especially early on. And those early KOs really helped alleviate some of the pressure in the side lanes. You've got the Urshifu and Alola Ninetales fully evolved. Both teams ready to go for this mid-farm, and it looks like it's going to be the aggression here from High-Five. Snorlax, unfortunately, not really able to do any taking at all. Instead, going to be maybe going down here, and it will go down, but so far 2 for 1, not too favorable. And now it looks like Eternity are going to bite back and get some vital KOs against High-Five.
That was a huge team fight coming out of Eternity, where they made it not walk away with the EXP of the camp, but they find another pick as well. My goodness gracious, they are doing wonders. But here comes retaliation, though. ZZ Ray, he's trying to find a little bit more of that trait, but I guess it's a little bit late. But in 20 seconds from now on, they have to prepare for the fight where the Reggie is spawning.
And it looks like they're all focusing in that bottom lane. Mr. Mime on the side of Eternity going to go up into that top lane. Heron in this game is really struggling. I'm not used to seeing Snorlax losing so much health in these games. And that's even with the help of a support that has healing. You know, the Pollen Puff is a really good heal. It should be able to keep Snorlax up, but it just goes to show how much damage and how much burst is available on the side of High-Five. And so far, they are going to be jumping into the back lines. We do see the stun there from the Snorlax, but what does it really do? Even Aegislash is being sent reeling. This is questionable, but Absol has gone down on the side of High-Five, so that's a lot of the burst damage down. Blissey barely surviving. Woolen actually going to have to dive onto the Reggie to be able to escape, and he does get the shielding in time and a KO as well. Eternity holding their own. Very impressive.
Wow, the way that both teams are fighting on for dear life to get this Reggie still is impressive. Wallen still survives regardless of here comes a steal attempt. Will they get it though? Eternity will secure it in the back as they currently rush into the first tier of the goal zone, but High-Five defense in time. No altercation to be involved in that fight as High-Five, and we'll have to give that one to
Shinji! Oh no! I'm not quite sure with that play here. Maybe he wasn't expecting so many Pokemon to be in that middle area, but unfortunately the KO means he's going to spend a lot of time running into that top lane, which means Eternity basically have free reign to potentially break this goal zone. And unfortunately, without your Absol, you're losing a lot of the firepower. Devil, luckily, not going to be able to go down, but it looks like he might just, and that will be enough damage. And oh no, maybe Eternity, they've stuck around a little bit too long. 2 Pokemon down. Even the Aegislash being eliminated there, and now Reggie Alecki being started on here with the Urshifu and Absol. These Pokemon, not only do they have amazing last hitting power, but they just absolutely hurt.
Yeah, and High-Five definitely knew how to punish them in due course, where Eternity have lost too many members. They will have to give away that Reggie Alecki, and that will mean that the first goal zone will go down. So Eternity started off really strong, but slowly but surely High-Five regained that form of momentum and currently sitting at 104 points. It's still relatively early as we meet the halfway mark. It's only 5 minutes into the game, where in terms of team fights, I believe that is where Eternity have shined the brightest, where they have so much damage to offer to knock out respective Pokemons, and just give it a little bit more time. That Snorlax will eventually be a lot more tanky to deal with High Five.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried here for High Five going into the late game because Eternity are packing on quite a lot of health on their Pokemon, especially when it comes to that late game scenario. You know, right, Snorlax is always he's just gonna get bigger and bigger as the game goes. Aegislash becomes tankier as well. And a lot of the burst damage, I fear, might not be enough, especially when we go into that Rayquaza. So if you're High Five, you want to try and get big of a lead as possible, which means these Reggies are so important. But if you lose this Absol here, that's going to be a big amount of firepower not available for that bottom fight, and they weren't able to survive with the Bliss assist, and now they're going to turn this around. Eternity going to regret their decision. The blocks of the Snorlax should just be enough to get Heron out of there, but big mistakes. I think that's just it. High Five, get this objective.
Yeah, and it was just so beautifully done. High Five and basically baited Eternity to jump on this Absol, and that quick response have not only secured them another Registeel in the back, but also to get so many points in return. Now Eternity responds, they do get some points over on top, and just needing 4 more to break open the goal zone. But for now, Eternity need to really consider not overextending from multiple times. BKZ used the eject button, so he will be stuck and will eventually be knocked out.
Yeah, but while all that's happening, he just made a big opening for High Five to just take the Regieleki themselves. So again, that's another objective. That means Eternity are going to have to keep someone to protect that top lane, which means Aegislash, he's not going to be able to go into the jungle to farm up some of those wild Pokemon. So High Five, they have free reign of this map. We're 3 minutes down up until the timer ticks for 0, folks. We're almost at Rayquaza, and it looks like late game is going to have to be where Eternity shines. They either need to snipe that Rayquaza, or they're going to have to get some crucial KOs to get some of that experience onto their own Pokemon, because so far, they're behind. They haven't been able to get those objectives. Their highest level Pokemon is Scyther.
Yeah, and we're just looking at High Five with this Absol absolutely popping off, where I don't really see that massive impact on the Scyther just yet. So we really have to see how much more can Kanaka do, where a lot of these times where Eternity engages, they really need him to dive all the way into the back line, and this low Ninetales have also been pretty much hurting them all throughout. So
look at BKZ again. This man, he's just being a pain, you know. He's constantly forcing Pokemon all over, but nope. It seems like Rayquaza's the objective here, Contra.
That's right. It's about to spawn up in a matter of seconds, and now with the appearance, Wulong now in position, but take a look at Urshifu as well. So I wonder when exactly will each team make a move, because it doesn't seem like it's going to be...
Absol as well. Shindy wants to score.
Sneaky moves. Ikura spots them out while they are still having this Cold War going on in between, where Heron now will be the one that leads the pack for Eternity, and they're still unwilling to commit to this, and that is the only ticket for Eternity to get their way back in the game.
100 points there for the Absol, and now he's going to be able to turn around and fight if he needs to. We've got the block there coming in from the Snorlax, but what is it really going to do? Everyone hiding in the bush, maybe they can jump onto somebody. Alola Ninetales a little bit too far in front, and you disable, and that might just be it for that Pokemon. A couple Pokemon do get caught though, but so far they're going to be sent reeling. High Five losing a lot of health. Everyone on Eternity looking very healthy, but now it's going to be the turnaround. They're on the blue zone, which means they did get a little bit of shielding, and now Eternity are going to be the ones to be absolutely shredded by High Five. The initiation was so important there for Eternity, but they just couldn't knock out the necessary Pokemon to turn that fight into their favor.
And undoubtedly, Rayquaza will be in the hands of High Five. No chances for Eternity to steal this one away. And just look at how well they handled that team fight pressure, even though they were bottlenecked over onto that bottom portion of the mid jungle. It didn't seem like they were hindered at all, where the Sonics were unable to catch anybody. Now, 15 seconds on the clock. There's no stopping High Five from securing the very first game.
What an incredible opening show here by High Five. They have completely dismantled Eternity's composition this game. I was really worried because you had a lot of these Pokemon that had a lot of abilities to heal themselves, to be able to catch out any very fragile Pokemon that could have stood a little bit too far in front. But positioning-wise, High Five were great. We never saw Alolan Ninetales getting caught at all. You had Wushan in the back lines as well to be able to support his allies if necessary. And then, of course, like, Ikora was just allowed to do Ikora things, right? You never want to target that Slowbro. And of course, him just constantly throwing out those scalds, reducing the physical damage output for all these Pokemon on Eternity. Can I just say, High Five, they have my heart right now.
Yeah, and at first I was just wondering, will Ikuro struggle in this matchup when he doesn't have his Snorlax? And now it proves to be that the Slowbro that he has is equally as scary. So what can Eternity do on the next game? I really do wonder. But you just got to take a look at the effectiveness of Xingdi. Not only did Xingdi get to power level his way up, just this Absol was quite the menace in many of these team fights, where even there were moments that Xingdi looked to be quite the sitting target for members of Eternity to catch out. And basically, Xingdi, what he did was to bait the rest of Eternity into a team fight trap, and High Five managed to wrap around many of all these team fights very, very effectively. High Five came prepared, and we want to get more out of them.
Yeah, so going into game 2, you have to wonder as Eternity, what's going to be your solution? And maybe the question is whether or not the Absol is even going to appear again. Because I fear Absol, it's one of those very niche Pokemon that if it comes out too many times, it's a pretty easy Pokemon to figure out. I mean, its biggest weakness is one of two things, right? It's either you get caught out with a disable and you get sneezed on, and then you get sent back to base, or you just don't blow up. When an Absol isn't able to keep up in terms of levels, this Pokemon does turn into a bit of a sandbag. It has a really tough time going into fights when it doesn't have a level advantage. It is so frail as well. So this Pokemon requires a lot of momentum, and High Five, they've basically got momentum down to a T. I don't know how this team does it.
Yeah, and when you look at High Five as well, they have so much damage to offer, where if you try to focus on the Absol alone, you still have to deal with the Alolan Ninetales as well as Urshifu. And in fact, as a matter of fact, from what I saw in the stats itself, it's the Urshifu that even out the damage that the Absol had. So it really was quite difficult for Eternity to begin with, where they don't really have enough of that burst potential to actually knock somebody out that quickly. I think like that was how game 1 had went, though it was pretty close, down towards that Rayquaza skirmish, and both teams evidently don't want to commit because they don't really want to waste any form of resources. That will actually open up so much room. But that team fight was so well handled by High Five.
Yeah, so going into game 2, I'm really excited. I think we've seen a lot of stuff from High Five so far, and they've been the ones to be able to create the tempo that they play. And I'm wondering, what's this team like when they're under pressure? We haven't seen High Five be the ones to be at the mercy of their opponents. It's always them being the ones to rain down the damage, to start the initiations, and to get those crucial KOs before a fight starts. What happens if the tables are turned? What are they like when they're under pressure?
I really do wonder. That really has to rely on the draft on what Eternity opts to ban out next, because they let through that Urshifu, so they had that pick going on for the side of High Five. So it goes to show that High Five, they have great dynamics overall, despite the whatever you actually ban on that list. They still have some answers to basically give back towards Eternity. But even Eternity themselves, last weekend we've seen them basically get themselves into a difficult scenario as well, but they still managed to make it out with a 2-1 record. Perhaps this is where, they get a good read of what High Five has to offer and start to adapt from game 2 onwards.
Yeah, I mean, I think a great a great way to start would be for Eternity to get on top of High Five during the laning stage, right? Like, I think that's one of the biggest shining qualities of High Five. They are so strong from the get-go with lanes. You know, last week we saw them invading the enemy jungle, slowing them down, meaning that they weren't able to go into lanes and pressure like they normally would. This time they had the Absol just roaming around at the perfect timing and getting those crucial KOs. And I mean, I felt really bad for Hanukkah, right? He was playing Scyther. Scyther is supposed to do the exact same thing, and he was left chasing the Absol. You shouldn't be chasing the other enemy jungler. You should be doing your own things on each side of the map. So yeah, Hanukkah, he just really struggled in this game. I mean, I think Scyther is still a fine choice on him. They just got to figure out how do they slow down this aggressive push, this aggressive playstyle coming in from High Five.
Exactly, and I think like what's really pivotal in many of all these skirmishes that we saw was that the setup prior into the team fights was a great middle control coming in from both ends, but of course High Five has evidently done it a little bit better, where they've been able to even set up around that Altaria spawn, and because of all these early setups, it didn't really allow Eternity to even find ways to get that entry point to sneak up on that Absol. So I felt like it really was very difficult to be Heron to keep looking out for this Absol, which just have so much mobility. I'm starting to wonder, will they actually let the Snorlax pick go on the second draft, because they might need something that can offer a little bit more versatility in these team fights.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't think Snorlax was the issue. Snorlax did struggle that game, right? Was it Heron that was playing the Snorlax?
I believe
Yeah, it
so.
was a really. I think this was probably one of the toughest games we've seen someone play that Snorlax. He really struggled. He had very no offense to the players at all. He had very little impact, but it was mainly because they just couldn't find the openings. Again, positioning wise for High Five, they were well spread out, and they were also ready in case someone did get jumped on. I mean, they had Blissey if they really needed to. They had the Bliss Assist, which gives you the shield, and then of course you can turn around because you've got your damage boost, and then you start going pew pew, and then Pokemon start falling out of the skies. And you get some really crazy stuff with Blissey. Maybe Blissey's one of the issues as well, because Blissey, so it's a great supporter in that it enables Pokemon, right? So if you go for Helping Hand, then you're giving your team a damage boost as well as a movement speed boost. Amazing for chasing, amazing for repositioning. If you decide to go for Safeguard, suddenly disables are not going to be as effective, because if you've got the Safeguard there, pop it on a teammate that's stunned, they're free to move, and they get a little bit of shielding. And then of course you've got Soft Boil, which is the classic Blissey move, where you are just constantly popping eggs, popping health. You can constantly fight back to back to back, because you have a walking goal zone. You know, you get that free healing.
I agree. Like overall, like the impact of what this Blissey offers has been very significant, and that's also one of the reasons why High Five has been able to succeed. And even other teams coming in from Southeast Asia and even India themselves have been using Blissey as a high impact Pokemon. So therefore, will we see it again in the second draft as we begin our banning phase? Eternity will get themselves that first pick priority this time around.
Oh man, I am looking forward to seeing what High Five pick. It's probably going to be, again, another very aggressive draft that probably has very early peaking Pokemon, but I'm wondering if Eternity might want to go in that same direction. Don't go towards a composition that has too many late game Pokemon, because if you get crippled in the early game, it really makes that Rayquaza a lot more difficult. So of course we've got the Scizor band on the side of Eternity, so no Scizor, no Scyther, and Urshifu band on the side of High Five, because they don't get that first pick. And Contra, this is a really interesting one. Serena first pick. Now Serena is probably one of the more, or at least less used all-rounders, and the reason being is that she got nerfed. She used to do a whole bunch of damage, she has a lot of self-sustain, now she does a lot less damage. Although they are trying to compensate this with damage items on Hanukkah and the X attack.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see it being first pick, because that also leaves room for Sable Eye to fall upon the hands of High Five. So we still have many of these options available. Is that going to be a Garchomp coming in?
I don't. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
it is.
wow.
It is. Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay, I am all for it because I am struggling right now to justify Garchomp as a Pokemon. If High Five can make this work, I'm all for it. And Bliss is one of the best Pokemon to do this. It's an amazing enabler for a Pokemon like Garchomp. Eternity, though, their full composition, they have taken away the Alola Ninetales, and they are going to go for my favorite battle swine. Mammoth Swine is their defender. I think this is a great aggressive and also attacking defender for Eternity. But look at this though, you got a lot of backline burst. No defenders on High Five. They're going all out. No defenders.
Yeah,
Okay,
and so
okay.
they're really relying on Ikuranga for this game. If all else fails in the early stages, this is going to look pretty rough for High Five. So Eternity, they also do add the damage numbers quite the notch, especially with the presence of the Serena, Dragonite, and Alola Ninetales. So I'm excited. Let's see what happens here in Game 2, Eternity versus High Five. Let's get right into Taya Sky Ruins.
Okay, you know what I think? I think BKZ is a bait. They're baiting with this Garchomp. They're saying like, okay, this guy is not actually going to be the big damage dealer in our team. It's going to be our two backliners. And they've got two of the strongest ranged attackers in the game right now. They've got the Dolphox as well as Mew. Mew being able to throw out solar beams from downtown. I mean, you're not even going to be able to see Mew. You see the beam and you go back to Fountain, okay? You do not see that Mew. And then, of course, you got the Dolphox. Big damage numbers if her attacks land. So, Eternity, I want to see a Game 3, but this is definitely an interesting match.
That's right, and both sides needing to also scale up until they get into their evolutions. And we're already seeing a lot of aggression coming in from Eternity. The trade backs onto Wolon, but he's under the goal zone, so he's going to be able to be absolutely fine getting all the shields as well as a little bit of healing. So, High Five, I really wonder what's the thought process behind all of this, because it's high risk, high reward. And speaking of which, Eternity comes in with the first knockout onto Mew.
Yeah, this is what Eternity needs. So they need these early KOs and to be able to eliminate these goal zones from High Five. You want to wrestle control away from the Taiwan team, because so far they have been so great when they're given that momentum. But let's see what BKZ is going to be. He will get his first evolution here, and I'm wondering, is it the Dragon line or is it going to be the Ground type line for that Garchomp, right? Is it going to be the Earthquake Dig? Is it going to be the Dragon Claw, Dragon Rush? I'm really curious to see what happens here. BKZ not revealing anything so far, so we are currently in the dark.
I do believe that they do
Dragon
need
lines.
a little bit more of that sustainability. So with that, I guess BKZ will rather go for a little bit more defensive route, just to be sure that there is enough for them to offer. Because Eternity, you see great sustain when you do have that Mammoth line being evolved, and then you have Serena that can battle all day. So High Five, they really gotta choose really well what they need to do next.
Yeah, they really do. So we've got these mid spawns coming in here, and look at this, a big dive from Eternity. They're just going straight onto the Dolphox, and Shingi will go down though. Big dive pays off here for Eternity, and unfortunately High Five, they were just too slow for those mid spawns, so it's going to be a big loss for them. Game is looking good. You know, the recovery so far is looking great for Eternity. I know the game has just started. Oh, if they catch Z-Ray, this Mew cannot go down again. This Mew is very critical for the composition here for High Five. You want these backliners to blow up. And of course, for that to happen, you don't want to get frozen. You don't want to get kicked up. You don't want to get caught.
Yeah, speaking of blowing up, like Heron almost got knocked out right there and then. And even with that beam, it continues to hit multiple units of Eternity, but not having enough burst damage to do much. And with the spawn of Reggie coming up, I wonder what they actually do next. Oh my word!
Oh my goodness!
He just went into the battle and the Sableye just disappeared.
Sableye, you mean? Alright, we've got Reggie still spawning into this bottom lane, and this is pretty important too, because this is a damage boost to the team that manages to pick this up. Now, unfortunately, your Garchomp is only just evolved, and I don't think he's going to make it to this fight at all. So High Five, their best hope is to maybe get a snipe here with that Mew, and unfortunately they won't get it, and instead they're going to be jumped on here by Eternity, brute forcing their way on top of High Five. They're turning this series around. Yes, they're taking a lot of damage, but the fact that High5 are not running a proper composition with a real frontliner, especially with such a dive-heavy comp from Eternity, I'm a bit worried here for High5.
Yeah, and they don't really seem to have any form of essential tools to be able to initiate into the battle other than relying on this Garchomp. So I guess like this is one of the few things that have hindered them from getting those early game progression going on their way, but they are challenging the Regieleki, and they will secure it instead of Eternity.
Yeah, big investments on the side of High5. They even used the Unite move there on the Garchomp, but unfortunately I don't think he managed to get a KO at all. Instead, we're seeing a dive here on the side of Eternity, trying to push back High5 whilst the rest of the team deals with that Regieleki, but Hanukkah sent reeling here, being chased by a Garchomp. Now, unfortunately, Garchomp being melee, he struggles to get on top of Pokemon even when he's skilled up into his Dragon move. So luckily for Eternity, no KOs, and they also successfully defend that Regieleki.
Yeah, just beautiful moves all throughout, especially on that Serena where we see massive stomps connecting. And, they do get themselves a knockout on the low 9 hills. Ikradel being left with no help, but they're turning around.
It's a trap, Devil. You've got to be so careful. They almost got the knockout there onto the Garchomp, and look at that. Sent back to base. Sableye. Just doing Sableye things. Devil all alone. His teammates are coming back. Luckily, they do still have the speed boost there from their goal zone, and now it's going to be High5 to be sent back to their side of the map, and unfortunately, again, Sableye going down. Eternity, they're holding their own. Like, so far, yes, they didn't get the Regieleki themselves, but the most important thing is that they are getting these bottom buffs, right? You're getting the experience, and also these stat bonuses are so important, and it's not going to be Red Dice, it's going to be the Regirock, so this is going to be a defensive bonus. BKZ's finally here. It's a 5v5, but hang on, Pilliswine is a little bit slow to this fight. I'm a little bit worried here, Concha.
Wow, huge moves coming in from High5, and they will get their hands into the Regirock, I do believe, and now getting themselves a little bit of that buff and will challenge them on the goal zone. Now another extension coming from Wusha, we'll see him being punished. The stops connect, the drop kick will land, and the Serena gets that double knockout.
Yeah, so constellation knockouts there. This is great on the side of Eternity. I'm quite surprised. I was watching Mamoswine on the map, and he sort of stopped up near the top of the lane. I'm not sure if maybe he was trying to knock out some Pokemon to try and get the evolution. He was level 8 at the time, so he wasn't fully evolved, no Unite move, but it did cost them at the end of the day. And now we're seeing High5. They're going to start pushing into this top goal zone because Regieleki is down. If they can break this and they have the Regieleki to push, it's now going to threaten that second the goal zone on the side of Eternity. And it looks like, so far, and it's finally going to happen. There we go. But in the meantime, though, counter scores from Eternity. But this means they're potentially just going to sack the Eleki.
Yeah, overall, they're just letting it go, and they're definitely ready to defend. We see 3 Pokemons over onto the top lane from Eternity, just waiting for this to slowly march in. So they have about 1 minute of a surplus time before they set up for Rayquaza, so they really have to deal with it very quickly. Wushan has been playing on the Knives Edge for the most part, and he's so little health left on the Sableye, so gotta be extremely careful with this one, though. So, Eternity, they do have the slight lead. It goes down to that Rayquaza swing once again. And, of course, pressure now is on High5. And you've questioned them. Who else would challenge High5 and push them to the brink? This is that game where Eternity does so.
Yeah, well, let's have to see if Eternity will be able to pull this game in their favor and call it a 1-1. Now, 8 seconds left until this next Reggie to pop in. Now, which one is it going to be? But the fight's going to begin. Now, if the Mamoswine goes down before the fight begins, Eternity will lose a front liner. They've already lost a Pokemon. They've lost their Serena. That's their highest level Pokemon. And they've also lost another one in the process. Alola Ninetales getting KO'd. So High5. They thought if we fight before this Eleki starts, this is going to catch them off guard, and they were successful in doing so. So that's the Reggie, again, going to High5.
Oh, they pulled up the moves a little bit too early, though, and at the very least, they should be spawning just in time to challenge that Rayquaza. But look at the establishment by High5. They've already moved so deep into Eternity's position, like you said. Now, I'm not even sure if Eternity can actually find enough room, but then again, they do have the Dragonite. A steal is very much possible.
Look, a KO here is probably going to be more important than the entire game combined, right? You've got the comeback potential here for that Rayquaza, but here's the thing, right? If Eternity don't do something soon, either a Pokemon is going to blow up or that Rayquaza is going to go down, because High Five, their team is amazing at ripping that Rayquaza, and they're going to do so, and they will be able to get it as well. So Eternity, they just came to this fight a little bit too late, and with this Rayquaza shield and High Five, they're going to score those points. Pokemon are going down, and Eternity, it looks like they may have just lost grasp of this game as well.
And High Five, they've won the war of attrition by the end of it all. They skilled into this position, and that, before even the Rayquaza fight happened, was that turning point for them to get back into the game. And after that, securing so much room around the midsection. And Eternity, they've got that Dragonite poked out, and they saw it's go time, and they have reaped every single benefit and still get more knockouts along the way. Double knockout coming in for the Mew.
Eternity are stuck on defense duty, but even then they are just getting popped left, right, and center with 30 seconds to go. And with a 500-point difference between these two teams, High Five exerting their dominance. This is the team to watch out for in East Asia, Contra.
I absolutely agree with you. 978 points and more to go, I believe. Are they going to break it into 1,000? Looks like it's going to be pretty close. 992, where they are just battling for consolation. Eternity will crumble, and High Five continues to dominate here in East Asia.
High Five, what a team. I don't know, Contra. If anything, I think this is definitely one of the favorites going into the grand final. I'm going to make the prediction. I think High Five is going to Malaysia. This team is just looking next level. They ran a strange composition, to say the least, and they still made it work.
Yeah, and overall, I absolutely understand the grand idea where, sure, they may not have that initiation power. They don't really have a proper defensive hole on the front lines, but just look at those massive bursts that they also do have, and Shingdi definitely have grown so much, and on top of it, BKZ, look at him go, dealing 91k damage in this round itself, whereas Eternity, they may have had those sustains, they may have had a lot of potential to basically outlast a team fight, but if you keep taking too much damage, there's only so much Heron, Jandy, and the rest could actually do. Therefore, going down to those final few moments, High Five knew when exactly to call a team fight.
Wow, so with this victory, High Five are going to secure themselves 3 more points for this first phase, whereas unfortunately for Eternity, unable to be able to tie this series 1-1, they're going to walk home with no points at all. And I'm curious, is there a team that's going to be able to take a game off of High Five at all? Because so far, just looking at the stats, that's a heck no, Contra.
That's right. So just looking at these amazing numbers and the adaptability that High Five has, like, we are only seeing possibly half of what they are offering right now, and they have not lost even a single match, even when they were behind for most part in this matchup. Eternity had that lead, just couldn't really get their hands onto that Rayquaza, and not even getting anywhere close to that Rayquaza was quite the cause of concern. These early team fights in the recap have shown that Eternity knew what exactly to do, but there was also a couple of moments where Eternity did overextend as well, and I feel like these are some things that Eternity has to fix.
Yeah, I think one thing that Eternity really needed to consider this game was the fact that these objectives were much more important to them than it was to High Five. The fact that they lost numerous objectives, they weren't able to get those last hits and to grab these very important boosts in experience, it made them fall behind High Five's lineup. And again, High Five, a momentum-based team, you give them the momentum, you're not getting it back. That's basically their game. You're playing in their ball court, their basketball, whatever. It's just High Five so far, unstoppable as soon as you give them any kind of advantage. But who knows, maybe moving forward, there's going to be a team that will be able to find out the weakness of High Five. Maybe there is a glaring, maybe there's a crack in this team's armor, but we're not 100% sure yet, because so far they are looking picture perfect. High five. This is a team I love watching so far. Yeah, maybe it's a 2-0, but I love watching their games. They play like a top tier team.
They are a top tier team, I do believe. And well, I guess like there is going to be a little bit more of a question without having seen games from No Show. Who knows? No Show might just be able to offer the same level of performance of what High Five have brought throughout these past 2 weeks. So with that being said, that concludes our very first series. But wow, I mean, both games were massive wins. I wouldn't really call it a stomp because it always boils down to that Rayquaza. And I would still say Eternity are not even slacking up in this fight. Sure, they may have lost both of these games, but we've seen the potential of what Eternity brings to the table. Now, with that loss, they have fallen short into the second position without securing any points for this Friday run.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate here for Eternity to take nothing home here, but they still have 2 more games after this to pick up some more points and to at least guarantee themselves that second place. I think first place, it's going to be pretty tough to take that away from High Five, but who knows, right? Secret Ship, No Show, these guys haven't played against High Five yet. They've got some extra time as well to try and figure them out. So, High Five, maybe they're immortal now, but maybe the immortality potion runs out in the next coming weeks. Who knows, Contra?
Yeah, and of course, there's still plenty of time for them to prepare in order to secure themselves as much points as possible before we get into the second stage of the league itself, where they will have to play the gauntlet to see who moves forward into the grand finals happening in Malaysia. And of course, we may have to say goodbye to some teams by then. But, you know, still many weekends to go, and you all have been wonderful joining us here at the Pokemon UNITE Asia Champions League East Asia. So I believe that we're going to get ourselves ready for the next one.
Well, that is the most important question. When are we going to be able to get ourselves ready? Now, I do believe we will be going for a break in a short moment while we get the players ready so they can jump into the lobby. So, of course, as we go into this break now, if you need to, toilet, snacks, drinks, but make sure you're back in 5 minutes because this next game is just going to be as exciting. We'll see you after this. Hello Pokemon trainers and welcome back to the Pokemon UNITE Asia Champions League East Asia. It is week 2 of the competition and High Five are currently dominating the leaderboard with 2-2-0 scores for their matches so far. Now of course we've just finished their matchup. If you do want to watch that game, we do highly recommend looking for the VODs after the stream because we are jumping into our next matchup of the day, Contra.
That's right, and we will finally get some of the matches to be highlighted on No Show who have not been able to, for us to have a glimpse of how this team plays, and today they will play their very first game. So I'm absolutely excited, and you know, before we even get to that, you know, like we were just wowed by High Five on that previous round.
Wow, I think wow is an understatement, Contra.
Understatement, it definitely is. Like the composition, like you said, like was unpredictable, and not only was it unpredictable, it offers a little bit of everything. At some point, we think like, is this a little bit too greedy when you have a Delphox, a Garchomp? Sure, you got that Mew, and then like, you see, who exactly is gonna start that fight? You know, it doesn't matter when everybody deals that much damage. Kaboom! You just knock out
Literally.
Pokemons.
Yeah, literally, right? Pokemon were just popping left, right, and so it didn't matter how bulky you were. We saw health bars just get taken out in chunks. It was like 3 bites, and you're back to base. It was insane. So I'm wondering, you know, are we going to be seeing some of those crazy shenanigans going into this next series? I kind of feel like, especially considering this is No Show's first tournament game of the tournament, I don't expect anything too crazy for them, but then maybe they'll prove me wrong. You know, they'll just be like, "Oh, that was very inspiring. Let's try and do some of that Garchomp stuff ourselves." Or maybe we're gonna go for double attack and no defender, which is look, guys, if you play Pokemon Unite, you know how important the defender role is. Okay, I do not recommend you go into your pub games drafting a lineup like that, but sometimes I think you have to just pull out the crazy stuff. Yeah, you just got to surprise people.
Yeah, and I believe that maybe this was actually inspired by pub games as well, where they probably have trial tested the most aggressive composition that you could possibly find. Sure, go ahead and struggle that the first few huddles that they do have, but heading to that late game, I don't think like we've seen any other team fight like that where a team would like Eternity have struggled in such a way where they shouldn't have to begin with.
Yeah, I thought they may have had the draft advantage because it seemed like they had a little bit of everything. It seemed like they had a solution for everything. But I think they just sort of fell too far behind in that game to really be able to fully utilize their lineup. I think the most important thing as well in that late game, they lost Serena first. Serena was their literal backbone to their team. To lose your highest level Pokemon already going into that last 2 minutes of the game, that hurts. You lose a lot of your firepower, a lot of your control, and especially with what Serena's supposed to do. This Pokemon is supposed to sustain, to constantly deal damage, to be a pain, and then when you find your most important target, you go in with the Queen's Ascendant, you lock them in the air, deal some big damage, and set up for the rest of your team. It just never happened.
Yeah, and that was quite unfortunate because Hanukkah actually played quite a magnificent game from the very first minute hitting into the mid game. Just, you know, sometimes a few hiccups do happen. Of course, we don't necessarily need to fault anybody out there. Eternity did their level best, but unfortunately will not walk away with those points. High Five currently sitting at the top of the table. No Show have yet to play a single game, so they are currently tied in the final position with Team 2. So later on, let's see, could they actually climb up against all the other teams that have already gotten the advantage of the experience competing in the previous weekends?
Well, I don't think No Show are too worried. I mean, this team did participate in the World Championships last year. They have LAN experience, they have tournament experience, and they've got a rather experienced lineup. So I want to see how they come into the tournament. Are they going to come in with a big bang? Are they going to come in High Five style per se? You know, are you going to come in super flashy, or do you want to be an underdog? I think it's worth mentioning, especially when it comes to MOBAs, that strategy is half the game. Strategy, drafting, execution, these are all important aspects when you play a MOBA style game. And sometimes it really plays to be the underdog. to maybe not show all of your cards, to be in the middle of the pack so that not everyone is trying to gun for you, because High Five have now basically put a target on their backs, right? Everyone's going to be looking at High Five, so when they play against them, when they're playing, everyone's going to be watching them. Everyone's going to be probably looking at their stats, their lineup of Pokemon that they do play, and maybe even stalk some of their pub games. Whereas, let's say No Show, they do decide to play more of an underdog role. They maybe finish in the middle of the pack during Phase 1, maybe squeeze on by as the second seed, going into Malaysia, and then you pull out the big guns. But of course, there's going to be risks with that kind of style. Maybe they don't even make it to Malaysia when you play that kind of style. So it really comes down, you can play your absolute best, show all your cards down, be confident, or you can maybe try and go as an underdog. We don't know with No Show, because so far, they have nothing to show.
Exactly. They have never showed their cards just yet, but they will definitely have to take on T2, another team that has ample of experience. So let's take a look at their roster of players really quick. So the traders that will be playing for today from No Show will be Sol, NQ, Chobo, First Blossom, as well as EP, and on T2. We've already seen familiar faces like Supercell, Ruin, Haruta, Ajun, as well as Hibachi.
Yeah, so of course, if you're TT, you really are looking to try and win your first series of the tournament. This team hasn't won as of yet, and to get those 3 points, especially after their performance last week, it will really push them up that leaderboard. But here's the kicker, I guess, with this. They have no data on No Show, or at least they don't have any recent data on No Show. Maybe they have the player stats and they have a faint idea on how they're playing with the current meta, but they don't have actual VODs to look at, right? Everyone else except No Show has something online that everyone's going to be able to see. No Show are coming in completely in the dark. They are, I guess you could say, an underdog at this point, and they have everything to show today.
Exactly, and T2, the last we saw them, I believe they were taking on High Five, and when we're talking about the current strongest team, with them losing out those games, you start to wonder, is it just High Five being too overwhelmingly powerful for this early run? And
Yeah.
T2 definitely still has a lot more that they could possibly show, so I do believe that there's a lot of hope going in for T2 heading into this matchup against No Show.
Yeah, I mean, for all we know, right, T2 could probably be the second strongest team in East Asia, but we didn't get to see it because High Five happened. So, well, it's going to boil down to T2, how they play today, and of course, No Show, because we have no idea how strong No Show is coming into this point.
Yeah,
So,
and I guess we really have to see what type of Pokemon are their favorites heading into the very first few battles, and I guess with a strong challenger on the opposite end, T2, they definitely will be put to the test once again. So we are also talking about the 5 best teams of trainers that are competing in East Asia. So definitely they will not disappoint us at any turn of the way.
Yeah, I don't. So far, I haven't been disappointed. Maybe the only thing I could say I'm disappointed with is that certain Pokemon haven't appeared yet, but that just sort of happens with competitive Pokemon Unite. Some Pokemon are just not viable, and then there are others where people haven't quite tapped into that Pokemon's potential. So everyone's going to go for safe picks. I don't blame them because money's on the line, your reputation's on the line, and something that us viewers don't really think about when it comes to these tournaments as well is that these tournaments are also a way for orgs to potentially scout teams, right? Some of these teams are not properly sponsored, some of them are not sponsored at all, and I'm not just speaking about East Asia, but the entire competition, all these teams, not everyone is properly sponsored. This is where they're going to have to show their things and hopefully find somebody to sponsor them. But speaking of which, we are going to jump into this game in just a second, and so far we're going to look at Epi and Hibachi here, Contra.
That's right. Epi have actually kept their eyes on High Five, and they think that they are the strongest team out there. So Epi's specialty is that he can run. So I really wonder what type of Pokemon allows him to run. Probably a Dodrio. We haven't seen that for today. And
Actually, yeah.
he recommends kimchi soup. Who does not love it? If you guys haven't tried it, go ahead, head to maybe the closest Korean cuisine store and try it out for yourself. Hibachi, though, nothing but gaming is his hobby, and everybody do respect Oguya because he's got so much experience in esports in general, and chicken wings. I love my chicken wings too. Obachi, you just know the best food for your own comfort. So, what do you think, Danielle? Are you siding more on EP or Hibachi, like based on what they say?
Okay, it's based on what they say. I think it's really hard to be able to pick sides. I mean, I'd probably lean towards. Actually, it's hard to say. I like chicken wings and kimchi soup. They're both kind of good.
Why not have both, right? Like, I guess like certain restaurants actually come with
Kimchi
both.
wings. That is actually a thing. Kimchi
Oh.
flavored wings. Why not combine both? You know, best of both worlds.
I believe that there might just be some where we could actually get this after the whole show ends, but we definitely want to check out this whole best of 3 between No Show as well as T2. You guys who are still tuning in, remember when you guys connect both stream elements as well as Twitch, you can actually win yourself some goodies. Like, we'll definitely give you more information. Maybe you might be a little bit late to the party, but tomorrow and the day after, there's still many prizes for you to win. So definitely jumping back into our hot topic, right? Like, these two teams have definitely shown us, or should I say, T2 have shown us that they can play really well on those team fights, but couple of times that they've contended against High Five, they didn't manage to make the cut. There was that one game though, I believe, really went down to that Rayquaza fight yet again. It was so close.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're so far the only team that's really gotten it that close against High Five, and that says a lot about them to be able to almost bring down High Five. So I'm looking forward to seeing this series. I think we're finally also going to see the full potential of this team as well, right? Because it's really hard to judge somebody, especially when they play up against High Five, because that team, again, next level, it just makes it really difficult for you to really show your stuff off. So if anything, I'm more interested in No Show. I really want to know what they have in store for us, where they are on that leaderboard, where they are in terms of their team's overall strength. Are they fully coordinated? Is this their meta? Because we also have to talk about the fact that we are starting to see a meta develop in the tournament, certain Pokemon definitely being favored. And I feel like, of course, you've got the Snorlax. I think that's a bread and butter for a lot of these teams. Are starting to see Delphox really show her face in the tournament. Mew, whenever it gets through, has been a rather prominent Pokemon as well. Dodrio, maybe not so much for East Asia, but then again, who knows? Maybe we're going to start seeing this Dodrio in this next up-and-coming series. But we know that India and Southeast Asia do love that Dodrio. So what other Pokemon are potentially going to be jumping into this meta that haven't appeared yet?
I'm still waiting for that one game where I get to see that Buzzwole. I don't know if it's gonna be this series. It's gonna be next week.
I think it should. I feel like Buzzwole has a lot of potential to make it into the competitive scene, but I think teams are trying to figure out where he sort of fits, right? He's a frontline brawler kind of Pokemon. He has a lot of sustain. He's just there to be a real big pet. He plays very much like a defender / all-rounder hybrid. But most people, when they try and go for all-rounders, you sort of want someone that can deal damage. You want someone that's going to be able to threaten some of those backline Pokemon. And Buzzwole sometimes does struggle getting into the backlines, especially if they're Snorlax. I feel like Snorlax might be one of the big reasons why Buzzwole is struggling to even make an appearance.
I think that actually makes a whole lot of sense, considering that you just mentioned that jumping to the backline is so crucial, especially on that past team fight when they were playing. There was that game with Snorlax involved where you really have to find a way to bypass that Snorlax. And I guess like teams have definitely figured out, oh, this type of composition, we have to take a look at what type of Pokemons that they come up with heading into those drafts, and therefore we get ourselves something as special as what we saw early on, Garchomp, you know?
Yeah, I feel like Garchomp made an appearance in that particular game because he did fill a couple of niche roles that the team required. So he is a fantastic late game Pokemon that can deal a lot of damage if you're able to land your skills. He rips through objectives. He can I'm not sure if he's the fastest Pokemon, but he's one of the fastest Pokemon to clear objectives solo. He's able to heal, but he just does so much damage. He's so threatening. You can't stand next to him. You have to kite him. And he was perfect. He can also tank a significant amount of damage as well. So in the case of High Five with that Garchomp, they just needed him to act as a timer, to stand next to the objectives and to say to their opponents, it's like, hey, if you're not going to do something soon, Garchomp's just going to rip through it. We don't care. We're not going to wait for you. And we're not going to give you time to jump into us either. And he also plays as a great initiator as well because he could go into that Dragon line, right? He had the Dragon Rush, the Dragon Claw, both moves that can shove and deal pretty good damage as well. So yeah, I think in that particular game, beautiful way to execute the Garchomp. Are we going to see it again? Maybe only from High Five. I kind of don't feel like a lot of other teams are going to go for this.
Yeah, and I believe that now with very different ideologies being set into place, it could always be something different. I mean, last weekend we did see even from other regions like Southeast Asia, Tyranitar was being picked, and I guess like there's a whole long list of other Pokemons that have not made that appearance as well. So if you get yourself a wish, to just see one Pokemon in particular that was not played, what would that be? We've seen quite a bunch already.
Ooh, good question. I feel like all the ones that I wanted to see have already appeared, but I think if I was supposed to add another Pokemon, you know what? I'm gonna have to give some love to my friends out there. I do want to see Charizard. I don't think we've seen this Pokemon at all, but here's the thing. The Pokemon has been gutted. He used to be a really great midline Pokemon. He was able to deal range damage. You could go for Flamethrower and Fire Blast if you wanted to do range AoE damage. You can also chase. Or you could just play that really brawly melee disable heavy Charizard with Fire Punch and Flame Charge. But now, he is basically just a Unite bot. If he's not united, he doesn't really do much. And it's really sad to see Charizard be completely gutted that way.
Yeah, I believe so as well. And I believe there's also other speedsters like Pikachu, Greninja that may not make that many appearances as well. Where, back then it used to be very, very popular. I guess like now with more options on the table, things have definitely shifted, especially now on this draft mode. You just get to see a lot more better varieties coming into the table.
Well, I'm wondering if it also might be because of the change in the scenery. I'm talking about the map in particular, right? Thea Sky Ruins is a very big map. There's a lot of wild Pokemon on the map, which means there's more farm to go around for both teams. I think one of the big advantages for Remote Stadium when it came to speedsters was that there were way less Pokemon on the field. The map was a lot smaller as well, and I feel like speedsters were able to be a lot more impactful because their early game was stronger, right? They tend to have that level advantage for a little bit longer than Thea. Now with Thea and the fact that we've got all this experience going all over the place, I kind of feel like that might be one of the main reasons why speedsters are not showing. But speaking of speedsters, we're going to throw that idea into the bin because we're going to be jumping into No-Show and T2.
Both WCS teams will now lock horns with the first few bans being Sableye as well as Urshifu. First Boston, now with the priority pick, has ample of options. You've got the Mew on board, and immediately Eepee says, you know what? Yeah, Contra, you're right. Go to
You're right, Contra. Oh, goodness. I'm not surprised that Mew's making an appearance here. A lot of Asian teams love to pick up that Mew if it's available, and if it's not banned, it can fill so many roles. It does a lot of range DPS. If you wanted to, you could play coaching Mew, although I think it is better off being more of that damage dealer. So I kind of feel like that's what's going to happen here with No-Show. They've got 2 range damage dealers so far, the Alola Ninetales and the Mew. They're going to pair it up with the Snorlax. Again, perfect Pokemon to pair it with those ranged attackers, right? Because you want to be in the front lines, you want to make sure nobody can get into the back lines. T2 though, this looks like a dive comp to me. You are picking up Fizzle. I presume it's Is it? I feel like this is Scizor. I don't think you run Scyther and Absol at the same time, but who knows? I could be wrong. And you got Mamoswine. Mamoswine is a really great brawler that does have a way to jump into the backlines. You could Earthquake if you want to fly over the block, or you could try and go for the high horsepower, but normally that's a bit more difficult because block does work on high horsepower. So I am really curious to see what they're going to be able to do with that Mamoswine. But okay, hang on, Contra. We've got Decidueye.
Wow.
This Pokemon is, I don't know what to say. I just want to see it. That's
All
good.
right. I mean, just take a look at No-Show. There is a certain strength involved. Sure, you have the Clefable as well as the Snorlax being the frontliners for No-Show, but take a look at this. It's all range output coming from No-Show's other Pokemons as well. So no matter how much this Absol wants to dive you, it could be a Scyther or a Scizor, so long as they manage to create that distance kind of way, they could basically dish out damage from a little bit of a significant distance. But also keep an eye out on this Gardevoir of T2's final pick, because I believe there's massive team fight impact for T2.
Okay, Contra, I just want to quickly mention, I'm not sure if any of the viewers noticed, I was staring at Sal's items because he had floatstone on his Decidueye. For anyone that's watching and doesn't understand, floatstone is an item that increases your movement speed when you're not in battle. Now, this is not an item that you normally pick up on Decidueye, so to see Sal pick this up, I'm expecting him to be constantly roaming around the map. So
Sure.
Sal, go ahead. I'm excited. Let's go.
I'm very, very keen to see what he actually does with that. So, like, does it give him a lot more time to farm up? Does he actually go into score more goals sneakily? So, like, we'll just have to wait for the next few minutes to see what kind of impact does this Decidueye actually offer. But a little bit of tussle going on from both ends. No-Show actually pushing it forward very far ahead. Haruda's going to be able to still contest, while first we finally get ourselves the low Ninetales evolution on Chobo.
Yeah, so looking at the two teams already, there's going to be a pretty big difference in how they play, right? You've got T2, who does have your late gamers in the side lanes, and you've got that Absol for that early game pressure. But on No-Show, they picked two strong lanes, and they've gone for the Decidueye, which is more of a late game Pokemon. That's why they did decide to throw him into that central area. So I'm curious, if T2 want to make this work, they're going to have to apply pressure onto No-Show, because Decidueye turns into a monster if left unchecked. It's going to do so much damage that Absol and it's going to be Scyther this game. So Absol and Scyther are not going to be able to do anything. They will KO before they even reach the Decidueye, but already we're starting to see a little bit of a brawl here from both sides, and I think... Alright, it's okay. The Fable's able to get out, it's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, Sal!
Clear.
Sal!
Hibachi?
Sal!
Woo! Quick pickup coming in, and that's the first knockout that we see coming into T2. Hibachi still looking for more EP out of the open, but the Mew will be able to get a little bit more of a safe distance. Meanwhile, that's a lot of middle control being established from T2, and Prince Blossom definitely has to find a way out for this. Meanwhile, topside, T2 up to something.
4v2, and it looks like they're going to get an easy KO there onto the Alolan Ninetales, and unfortunately for Fable, there's not really much you can do as a Moonlight or Fable, so they're going to let those points go into the goal zones. But meanwhile, bottom lane though, they are going to be able to do quite a significant amount to the bottom score on the side of T2, so it's not looking too bad for No-Show. They are struggling a little bit, but this is to be expected, especially when you're running this Decidueye. Decidueye wants to spend the first 3 minutes, maybe even 4 minutes of the game just leveling up, because once he hits critical mass, that's when we're going to start seeing some action there coming in from Sal.
That's true. Now, I really want to take a look at this contest down bottom for the Reggie, where we don't really see the Decidueye appearing just yet, but he's already making his way down towards bottom. While T2, instead, they're thinking of contesting for this Reggie and Lecky, so it will eventually be a trade. So whether if T2 can stat this Reggie completely goes to be the question.
Yeah, so it looks like the Reggie is going to be going in favor of T2, but No-Show are able to get the Regice for themselves. So experience for No-Show, this is the most important thing for their lineup. You've got the Decidueye, you want experience. Yes, Reggie Alecki is nice because you can try and push those goals, the goal zones, but unless he gets on top of it and you're able to get a wipe, it's not really going to pay off here. And if you lose the Absol, that's going to be experience for some of these Pokemon. And luckily no one goes down on the side of T2, but not really much being achieved in that top lane.
Yeah, like, it was pretty much a risky move coming from T2, but despite that, he still managed to have a lot of initiatives to be able to score that 100-pointer. And oh my word, T2 with a dive, and Mabel stuck in between. NQ tries to trade right back, and they do get the beams hitting on track, and that's the power of No-Show. Just creating so much damage from a distance to shove T2 back.
Yeah, so they, unfortunately for No-Show, they lost the Alola Ninetales there, but we're now starting to get a sneak peek into what No-Show is going to be showing this game. The amount of range damage coming out from the Decidueye and the Mew is insane. One misstep, you're going to get sniped, no problem at all. So if you're T2, you want to start building up this momentum, you want to be the ones to take control of the map so that you're denying experience to that Decidueye and of course the rest of No-Show. Objectives are going to be really important here, and so if you're T2, I think, I dare say, I think T2 has the better team fight composition. You've got the Mamoswine, you've got the Gardevoir as well, especially when you have that Unite move. If No-Show clump up, I think that might just be it for the team. But again, you're relying on those really big Unite moves.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. No-Show, all they can basically do is to poke and prod until they wither down a few of the Pokemons heading into T2 before they actually start those full-fledged battle. And now they finally get the catch. EP pulls out the wall and immediately gets back into safety. Oh, that's quite a chunk that he hits over onto Kobashi. Meanwhile, fight breaking loose onto the Regirock.
Oh, Sal, look at him. He is just shredding the Regirock, and they will still be able to get it. They even use the Unite move there on the Gardevoir, so that's going to be completely wasted. And they don't even get a KO for that as well, so this is just a big victory on the side of No-Show. Now, luckily, T2 were able to get the final hit onto the Reggie Alecki thanks to that Scyther, but again, they can't really do anything with this Reggie. So, yeah. No-Show looking fantastic.
Exactly. Though they are still a little bit lagging behind in terms of scoring potential, and we absolutely understand why. I mean, none of these Pokemon could effectively get into the goal zone all too safely, and just having T2 with that constant pressure. Supercell overextends though. This Mamoswine might go down, but instead we'll have enough room.
Thankfully, he was able to charge on out of there, almost going down to that Unite there from the Decidueye. You got to be so careful when he triggers that knock-knock, because he's just going to be knocking Pokemon back to base.
Perfectly timed, I would say, for the punch, and
nope.
T2 still looking for it. 4 Pokemons right down onto the bottom. They're looking for
and they got him!
A dive. They will catch out the Decidueye, and that's a double KO streak for the Cypher. Haruta making it possible.
That's what you need to do as T2. You need to make that dive happen onto the Decidueye, because right now Decidueye is the majority of No-Show's damage output. Mew is there as well, but Decidueye is the real big one, especially when you're playing from range. So if you're able to close that gap, especially since you're running the Absol and that Scyther, get in there, pop the damage, and you're effectively cutting back a lot of the power on the side of No-Show. And this is something that No-Show now needs to be very aware of. The Decidueye and even the Mew are going to be primary targets on the side of T2. So you've got to make sure that the Snorlax is there, available with the block and the Heavy Slam where necessary. But now Registeel is spawned and Snorlax is in base.
Not too sure if that's going to be a good showing from No-Show on how much they can actually offer to snatch themselves this Registeel, but it will be a quick reset going on. T2 just looking for that golden opportunity. So this is where No-Show opts to jump right in, and not stop it in time. No-Show will still secure it.
And look at this, Blossom's gone into that top lane, and he's scared off the Absol single-handedly. Absol's having to go back to pick up those berries, but yeah, it was basically just because Rayquaza spawning, and now the fight's going to begin. And Mamoswine's jumped on the 2 Pokemon so far, but now they're struggling to actually get these jumps on. But T2, can they pop the Pokemon? Lower Ninetales going to be the first one to go down, but now health is starting to trickle down here on that T2, but they managed to get another one. It was the Decidueye, another big powerhouse. It's now down to the Mew, and the Unite being completely wasted by the Gardevoir, and now it's going to be a 4 versus 5 situation. Rayquaza, he's still there, he's very low, but that potential is there. They'll be going, and they got the snipe, and now T2, they are wounded. They are now going to have to try and prevent these scorelines happening from no-show. He will be able to get the first one there. It's going to be a 100-pointer here, and he still has so much shielding left. T2, all they needed to do was to stop No-Show from getting that Rayquaza, but it's not over yet, Contra. They've got to get those points in.
The question is, how did First Blossom actually get it? He was all alone, and now they will dunk in another 100-pointer. What could T2 do?
Another one,
they are
300.
sneaking one for that. Look at the Blissey as well. They could still put another 100-pointer in. NQ getting chased upon. Ruin's just gonna try to find a way to snipe them all down. And they finally stopped the Blissey from approaching for it. It's still running really close. They only got 35 seconds to go.
Another one, 84! Oh my goodness, they need so many points to make this catch-up happen, but if they can manage to somehow score 200 points, maybe this will come back T2 needs. They're going to be battling in that bottom tier 2 scoreline. And look at this back line, they're going to try and snipe that Mew. They can't quite get it though. 3, 4, 5 Pokemon down! No-Show sweep T2, and they will defend their honor, defend this game, and take game 1 of this best of 3 series. No-Show looking to impress.
Unbelievable word coming in from No-Show. And it's all thanks to First Blossom that have been able to snatch that Rayquaza right underneath the noses of T2 to make this incredible comeback happen.
Oh my goodness. And the game was effectively in T2's court, right? They were the ones that were scoring the majority of the points early on. No-Show being so frail, especially with their damage dealers, they were quite afraid to score those goals. And so they decided we're just going to wait until the very late game. We've got one of the, arguably, I'd say one of the best late gamers in the game, being that Decidueye does so much damage. But it didn't really come down to Sal, right? It came down to... Well,
First Blossom. Of all the Pokemons out there, this Snorlax.
MVPs, man, I swear, all of them.
I'm just trying to pick my brain cells all together because evidently No-Show didn't really have that much damage to offer in that team fight after losing out the Decidueye, and even so, managing to still have this Snorlax to steal it away. It shouldn't happen for T2, and it was what it was. So T2, they will be a lot more careful heading to the next game. And when you look at stats alone, like, if you add these numbers up, I believe that T2 has done just about more than enough throughout the course of the game until that last hurdle.
Yeah, it was really just the fight around Rayquaza. I think the crucial thing that really made it difficult for T2 to secure the Rayquaza was the fact that I'd say Ruin missing his Unite was probably one of the biggest factors. Gardevoir Unite can make or break a team fight, especially with the fact that it sucks Pokemon in and it gives you an opening to dish out damage for free because you can't do anything. So the fact that that was missed, they kind of just had to be like, okay guys, this is taking too long. We kind of have to go for the Rayquaza. It's just a Snorlax. Who cares? And then it gets stolen. So, you know, things happen.
Feels bad.
You know?
It really feels bad. But all in all, like, No-Show really have been really patient with this team fight, despite having a few members being caught out. They stuck together, and you saw the amount of sustain that allows them to still keep up with the pacing of T2 has been relatively impressive, and we just love to see it. Is this just luck? We'll just really have to see what happens in game 2, where T2 pretty pretty angry about what really went on. I can't say the same because we don't know what's happening behind the screens of these traders. But I'm pretty sure that they are very much pumped up of, like just falling short because of that one final battle. Other than that, I think they look magnificent. So they can run back the same composition if you want to, because it has been looking stable. The team fights were looking pretty good. And I want to see a little bit more feistiness when it comes down to challenging some of all these objectives on the map.
I mean, T2 was probably as feisty as you could really get. They had a lot of Pokemon that just wanted to get into your face. I mean, they had 3 Pokemon that wanted to get into your face, right? They Scyther, Absol, and Mamoswine. So I don't know what you could really do outside of just general execution. I feel like that was really the only thing that they could really fix. Maybe in the laning stage, try and push their lead even further. I think something to consider is maybe invade the central area. Stop the Decidueye from just having that free central area. It's one of the weakest Pokemon in the central area if left alone. They could have possibly sent someone in. It could have. I think the easiest one would have been just send your Absol, send your Scyther, send someone that can just poke him, annoy him, do something, just slow him down, because Sal really just had a free game. I think we saw one jungle knockout, but that was about it. They sort of just stopped it there. I'm wondering, maybe is that something that they need to be a little bit more proactive with?
I do agree, because I believe that they gave a lot of priority onto the Mew, which is pretty tough to catch, and she could just easily wiggle around with a little bit more room, and also put up some walls to create a little bit more of that safety net as well. So T2 definitely have to go in to fix a couple of all these misprioritization, if so to speak. So if there's going to be any changes, what are you hoping to see, Dadelin?
For T2? I'd probably say I'm not too keen on the Absol and Scyther. I feel like if you're going to get one, stick with one. And maybe swap out that pick for just a normal ranged attacker or someone that has some kind of catch, because I feel something missing in their lineup was Disable. They didn't have too many moves that was able to help with crowd control. The only real big one was Mamoswine, who actually struggled to get into the fights to begin with, and the other one was Gardevoir with the Unite move, but we didn't really see that move land at all. If anything, I think we saw both of them. I think there was only 2 in that game. Maybe there was a third one we didn't see, but I saw 2 of them, and they all landed on nothing.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult for them when it comes down to how they juggle the team fights. And I guess, like what I mentioned early on, the strength of what No-Show have offered was a lot of range damage, and they definitely used that to full effect, where you see the Solar Beam. So, wait, was it a Solar Beam? Hyper Beam? Well, I definitely have to check on that. So, other than that, like, this Decidueye have put in that same sort of constant pressure that, like you said, eventually turned into that monster, even when they did catch that out. I guess it's just down to those final few moments of that Rayquaza battle again. And of all things, I'm still in shock that it was the Snorlax that got it. Of all everybody else, no one else was smack dab in the middle in that Rayquaza pit, but that Snorlax.
Well, sometimes, we also have to understand we're looking at some of the best players in the world. So the art of last hitting Rayquaza is something that they all probably are good at. So I know I'm definitely not in that category. Unfortunately, I'm terrible when it comes to last hitting Rayquaza, which is why I have no competitive career. And these gentlemen do. But I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what happens here. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be seeing some more of this ranged shenanigans from No-Show. I thought it was a very fun comp. I don't know if they're going to get away with it again. Who knows? If I was a team watching that, I would just be like, all right, guys, that's in the books. Ranged comp. Let's look for counters, or at least ways to deal with it, because it was very amusing to watch.
It definitely is, and I wonder what's next. We've seen quite a lot of different style of play coming in from every respective team. So therefore, let's head right back in the draft for Game 2. T2 now starts off with the priority pick, with Supercell leading the way. So I wonder what really gets banned off. Will they finally invest a ban onto that Mew?
I wouldn't be surprised. We did see Mew banned a couple times in the previous weeks, and this Pokemon is just so versatile. You can do a lot of things with it. You can do damage, you can do support, you can push people off the goal zones, you can just snipe people from downtown, they'll never see you, and T2 will be banning the Mew themselves, and we are looking at the Venusaur, no, Wigglytuff, no, they're thinking, Urshifu, there we go. Urshifu is the first pick.
I was really wondering, like, he hovered onto Duraludon as well. We have not seen that Pokemon for quite some time. I wonder if there's ever going to be a consideration for that later on. Snorlax as well as Blissey, the standard composition, and we are seeing a glance of Dragapult.
I was kind of excited. I think if you're going to go Dragapult, it's got to be last pick. You don't mess around with the Dragapult pick. You got to make sure it's just not counted.
Indeed. Now, they do have the Scyther Caesar being left available. Harta is going to snatch that up really immediately. And what are we expecting out of No-Show? I guess, like, they're just going to scroll around, show you a couple of choices. We've seen
Buzzwole?
before.
Your wish has come true. I'm happy to see it. Oh man, this Buzzwole is going to have a field day. So Buzzwole is... I mean, we had this discussion before, right? He is a fantastic brawler. He loves fighting Pokemon head-to-head. He wants to be in range. And I'm really curious to see what kind of build we see from this Buzzwole, because if it's going to be the sustained leech life, T2 don't really have too many ways to actually knock Pokemon off if they do get hit with the leech life. Like, you got to be on top of him if it's the Urshifu or the Mamoswine. Other than that, I mean, Ninetales could get the freeze, but yeah, Buzzwole, okay.
Yeah, and I believe that this time around, they don't really need to worry too much when it comes down to dealing with some range Pokemons, because T2, the only one that will be a little bit out of range is going to be the lone Ninetales, and that should be the target for both the Delphox as well as Cramorant. So it really is interesting to see how No-Show actually drafts this time around. So without further ado, let's hop right back into Thea Sky Ruins. This could be another pointer for No-Show, or could it be a T2 pushing it into Game 3?
Yeah, can they make this comeback happen? We'll see as we jump into Game 2 between T2 and No-Show. We're finally seeing our first Buzzwole of the tournament. Super excited to see how this Pokemon fares, because there has been some discussion online on how Buzzwole could be in the competitive scene. He has received a lot of changes and a lot of buffs, because he did sort of come out into the game a little bit underpowered. And to see these changes, he's starting to look very, very viable as a Pokemon that could make it into the meta. But a Buzzwole Snorlax lane currently struggling against a Ninetales Eldegoss lane. Now, one thing that's very annoying about this composition is, firstly, Ninetales evolves very early, does a lot of damage as a ranged attacker, and Eldegoss, that's not a supporter, that's an attacker. You know, pretending to be a supporter. I'm just gonna say it.
Well, you called it out really quickly though, and Supercell dives right in. EP still slowly hooking them down, and the struggle just continues. I mean, they might as well consider, hey, should we swap lanes or what by now? Because it may not seem to be all too favorable, especially when they need to prepare for the next upcoming Reggie. So that's going to happen in less than a minute for now. A little bit of a standstill from both ends as they wait for the Altaria, and here we go, Blossom.
That was a really nice scout from Blossom, actually. So he scouted the bush and they've revealed Hibachi. And because of that, Hibachi isn't really able to successfully sneak into that bottom lane. So that was a really good play from the Snorlax.
Indeed. Now, there's a little bit of a tussle from both ends. And just look at the establishment of the mid control by T2. They finally get themselves a catch, and that's the first knockout heading into the Swine Up. And T2 please gets a little bit more EXP for what eventually will be a Mamoswine.
Yeah, and they also revealed the safeguard on that Blissey, so this means the freezers are going to be a little less efficient on the side of T2, but this means that there's going to be no healing, right? Because if you go for safeguard, that means no soft-boiled for that Blissey. So we'll see if there's going to be any changes to how you play the game, but so far most of that Pokemon in the central area being taken there by T2, and it looks like they have to use the eject button there onto Supercell, but this poor little Swine Up is just saying, please let me go, I'm just level 4.
Well, they got what they wanted. The Altara still went in the hands of T2, so with a lot of ample EXP in their favor. No-Show did score a 50-pointer while they have been keeping themselves busy. But for the time being, we have not really seen heavy commitment coming from No-Show because they understand that there is a lot of scaling involved for them to be very effective in these team fights. And EP have always been keeping close watch, and I wonder if he's going to be picked off though. Where's Blossom? Giving it a little watch and just goes in with a heavy slam. That will be them backing off after sniffing out so many Pokemons in the brush.
Yeah, T2, they thought being patient was going to pay off, but the fact that Blossom scouts us out, just beautiful play, making sure that the attackers are going to be completely safe going into these fights. And again, we're looking at some aggression here for T2, looking to attack onto this tier 1 goal zone on the side of No-Show. No-Show too busy with the bottom objective here, the Registeel with the Buzzwole and the Delphox. Now they're going to be having that special attack and attack bonus. Now, is this going to pay off though? They actually lost a Pokemon already. It's going to be the Snorlax, and they're trying to go for that Blissey next. Luckily, the safeguard going to be enough. And now, turning around with the Cramorant. Cram's going to be so careful. A freeze here could be lethal, but luckily no commitment. Just the goal zone taken down.
Wow, impressive pressure being shown there by T2, especially on the Mamoswine. And that's where Regieleki has been well set up for T2 to just secure without any form of pressure coming in from No-Show. 1v1, Chobo doesn't really want to deal with the range, folks, so he's got to back away.
Yeah, it's one of the most annoying Pokemon to go up against, especially as a Buzzwole. Any kind of Pokemon that can freeze, disable, stun, you don't want to touch those. So he's going to play it a little bit safe, but I'm quite surprised that they haven't really involved the Buzzwole. He's been focusing more on that solo lane, staying down in the bottom section, making sure that these Pokemon are not being completely given away to ruin on that Ninetales. But now it looks like we're starting to see some pressure here from No-Show. It's only the Ninetales here, and now we're starting to see some points being scored onto this goal zone. Fanciful Firework on the goal zone as well to prevent T2 from going and feeling safe on their goal zone. But now, oh my goodness, the Gatling gun off the ground. That's not going to be enough. I think this was going to be it. He goes down. Oh, the aggression from No-Show. They thought it was going to be an easy goal zone, but T2 just too tanky.
Yeah, and now they are both tied at 162 points after that huge battle swinging in favor of T2, knocking out 3 Pokemon from No-Show, and Hibachi still managing to pull a few numbers back into No-Show's favor. Now, 15 seconds from now, let's see which Reggie will appear. Now, Buzzwole has already went in for a deep setup, while they still have the Charmer to look over the top end of the goal zone instead. T2, what's their response? They are going to commit with every single member in the way. That Cypher's going to be spotted out by Delphox, I do believe. Registeel has appeared, and Supercell solely zoning them away. What's the opening play here? But Blossom have finally arrived. Now you will have to deal with a little bit of a pressure as they will have them respond in kind. T2 have zoned them just enough to secure that Registeel.
Yeah, Cramorant wasn't there for the fight at all. He didn't have the Unite move. Instead, he was busy in that top lane. And now they're going to have to defend this goal zone. 7 points to break this. And so far, no opening for T2 to grab that goal zone. So luckily, No-Show will be able to defend. But now, can they punish in kind? Are they going to be able to take these Pokemon? Because their health is going so low. Buzzwole, though, going to be these Pokemon to be eliminated as Delphox also gets removed. And Cramorant, he's actually got the Unite move. And now he's going to be shooting from the other side of the field. Is it going to be enough? No! He gets eliminated. Blissey is the only Pokemon left alive here and does get taken down. The side that chops her up and sends her back to base.
My goodness, T2 just popping off in majority of all these team fights, and they knew what exactly to do to slowly shove No-Show aside. And we see this Delphox unable to even find a little bit more of that wiggle room to deal enough damage to knock out T2. So a little bit of contest will happen on that Regieleki, while they have to be really careful about this because there's still a lot of open room across the map. So Supercell, he sees an opening. When is he going to charge right in? They will have Hibachi dancing right through, still unable to take down the bus.
And this poor Chobo, he's just been not able to find any openings to easily get into these fights. He's just lost all this health and even Blossom struggling. Now this is the issue when you go for Blissey with Safeguard and don't have Soft Coil. You don't have that healing to be able to sustain and potentially outlast your opponents. And I do believe it's Pollen Puff on the side of T2. So because they had that healing, they're able to survive these pokes. And unfortunately, this is just going to push No-Show out of the battle. To turn things around, if you're No-Show, you have to jump on top of T2. Don't wait and force these very long engagements because you're just not going to win in that department.
Exactly, and now when they're so occupied with it, Lecky, it allows another free buff for T2 right down bottom.
It's Reggie Steele.
Oh, wow. This is going to be pretty huge, especially with so much sustain that we talked about. Having this Mammal Slime as well as the Eldegoss to create more room. I'm not even sure if No-Show is going to be able to actually have enough damage to burst them throughout for this Rayquaza.
Yeah, if anything, I'm looking at No-Show and it really comes down to this Delphox's shoulders. The Cramorant, he's good off damage, but unfortunately for Epi, he's really not doing enough to threaten or make T2 feel scared of him. They see him pop the Unite move and they just sort of stand on top of him and be like, hey bro, what's up? You're going back to base, yo. So if Delphox gets eliminated here, I think that might just be it for No-Show. So keep the Delphox alive. That's the goal here. Fanciful Fireworks going to be so important, but it looks like there we go. Gatling Gun going to be used there by the Cramorant. And so far, Pokemon not looking too healthy on the side of T2. They have lost they almost lost the Mammoth, but two Pokemon are now down on the side of No-Show. Delphox the third Pokemon to go down. And is this going to be it though? It's going to be down to two. The defenders, they just don't do damage. T2 run all the way over them. And now it's going to be a free Rayquaza. No way Blissey makes it back into the central area. And it looks like we're looking at a tied 1-1 series here, Contra.
That's right, T2 will continue to charge onto the goal zone. Haruta will not have anyone stopping the way. The Snorlax have just arrived to the scene, but he does have those shields. He's not going to be all too concerned. The damage, is it going to be enough? He's just going to march right through, and finally they take that shield down. So still no points in from Haruta, and it is about to be knocked out. Bottom side though, this is where the pressure will come in. 100 pointer from T2 to put it to 300, and even more to go on the battle goal zone.
Oh man, they've got to get rid of the Eldegoss and the lower Ninetales, but they have no way to break the shield, so they managed to successfully score those goals. So now No-Show needs to somehow score 300 points, and Hibachi's already made the teleport back to base, and now it's just going to be the Delphox as well as the Snorlax alone. The rest of the team is back home, they're defending, but with these two alone, I just don't see Sal and Blossom being able to pull this through. Snorlax goes down, Sal's being chased away. Contra, we're going to a game 3.
It will be the full stretch of the series here with T2 finally securing the first ever point here in the ACL East Asia. So congratulations to them, but this is not over just yet. One more battle to go, and we will see who will be the true victors in the series. My word, Danielle, this has been quite the battle, but I guess for No-Show, they've tried a little bit too hard to try to squeeze in a composition that has never been seen before. But yet again, they could not effectively put those damage numbers back on track. In fact, when we were focusing so much on the Delphox, the Cramorant actually deals a majority of that damage. So
yeah,
I'm not even certain, is there going to be a major overhaul when we do hit into game 3 for No-Show?
Okay, so I don't think there was anything wrong with the Delphox pick. Maybe the two picks I'm a little bit concerned here about was definitely the Buzzwole. We didn't see much impact with Chobo at all. He really struggled to do anything in these fights at all. He was either immediately knocked out or he was the last one standing, just flailing his arms, hoping he was doing something. Epi, okay, so the Cramorant pick, I don't feel too bad about this. It was just that a lot of the times he was one of the last Pokemon standing because T2 just ignored him. He wasn't doing enough damage like Sal to really be threatening. I think one of the big reasons why we're seeing some of these high damage attackers is that the fact that if they land a couple moves on you, you're going to lose half your health. Cram doesn't really do that. And I do believe this was the Dive Cramorant build as well. So he's more about that chip damage. He's more about long-term, slowly chipping Pokemon down. But you went for Safeguard Blissey. So how are you going to be able to survive long enough for the dive to really pay off?
Yeah, I guess like that exactly is the problem with their whole composition overall, where they couldn't really outlast many of all these battles, where Ruin just gets free damage output throughout the course of the battle, where whenever No-Show tries to initiate, they have to pull back. They don't have enough to even peel through to Spammel's line, which have been dealing a significant annoyance towards the rest of No-Show.
Yeah, I think this is why we see Blissey getting paired up with the likes of Mr. Mime, for example, if you're trying to go for Safeguard, because you have the Mr. Mime to act as your healer, and then you also still get the benefits of that Safeguard to be able to play aggressively. It almost felt like they were also forced to maybe pick into Safeguard. They didn't anticipate wanting to go Safeguard that game because maybe they didn't get the lead that they wanted. And then, of course, with that, you had the disadvantages. It just didn't really pay off ultimately to go Safeguard. So it was a tough game. They tried to do something a little bit different. It didn't work out this time, but it's fine because they still had a 1-game advantage over No-Show. So now we're going to be seeing teams, at least our 2 teams, battle it out in this final 3rd game to find out who's going to be getting 3 points at the end of this series and who's only going to walk home with 1.
Yeah, and when we take a look back into that particular game as well, like from the early game all the way into the mid game, I believe that they've been able to really match each other's potential overall, where both ends were just racing to score those points, and at one point they were both tied at 162, and there's just so many attempts, especially from that top end of the map, where they've been able to find a little bit more gap to actually land those points, whereas T2, they just knew that they have this range advantage from the get-go, and they just kept on poking and prodding until they've secured multiple buffs that were unable to be challenged by the rest of No-Show. And I think like that really opens up a lot more advantages for T2 leading up to that Rayquaza battle.
I hope we see more Buzzwole. I'm going to be honest. I think there's still a lot more room for Buzzwole to maybe squeeze into the competitive scene. I really think it was just the lanes. You got a terrible lane matchup. It was Buzzwole Snorlax against Ninetales Eldegoss. Two amazing lane harassing Pokemon up against 2 melee Pokemon. Now, if you had a melee matchup, I think if you with that pairing instead, the Buzzwole and the Snorlax, I think it would have been completely different. Those 2 Pokemon run over other Pokemon in melee matchup, but they just didn't get the best matchup. So
I absolutely agree, and I think like that's just small little hindrances heading into that laning phase. So I believe that should be eventually adjusted by No-Show altogether. They don't really have to change all too much if they're still favoring Pokemons like Craboran or even Delphox. That's absolutely fine, but I guess Buzzwole will be seeing the light of day for now.
For now, you know.
For now.
So, you know how it is sometimes with mosquitoes. They always come back when you don't want them. Although in my case, I do want to see it. So Buzzwole, come back. You know, don't go anywhere. Come back here. But I am keen to see what kind of stuff we're going to be seeing in that 3rd game. I wouldn't be surprised if the teams just go back to their comfort picks, Pokemon that have already worked, because ultimately you're playing for an extra 2 points here, and it's really important that you get it, especially if you want to try and get a high seeding, because you don't want to get 4th and 5th seeding. I'm just going to say it outright, because you're playing an extra series in the 2nd phase if you get 4th and 5th. You want to try and make it to ultimately 1st, otherwise 2nd or 3rd. So we'll have to see who's going to come out on top in this final game, because there's literally everything on the table now.
Exactly, and there's just all these other champions out of all the qualifiers, as well as the WCS that was previously held. So you know that the next opponent isn't going to be any much more easy for them to deal with. So they have to definitely put their best foot forward. Now, at the very least, for both T2 as well as No-Show, they now walk away with a single digit of a point. Of course, ideally you want that 3-pointer, so this is where we'll definitely have to see who managed to set the record straight in this best of 3. And well, looks like every single weekend there will be a game that will go the distance, and I'm glad it's two of the teams, especially from No Show, where we may not have seen them for quite some time since the WCS, and now reappearing, they have shown us surprising gameplay like the Snorlax deal. So what else is left in the bag?
New Pokemon, that's what's left in the bag. I'm going to say it. New Pokemon. Pokemon that haven't appeared in the region. Now, we're speaking regionally as well, because I think we do need to be realistic. Regions in general are going to have different play styles, different preferences, different Pokemon preferences. We saw a lot of Tyranitar in Southeast Asia, but I don't think we've seen any in East Asia. And I'm kind of wondering, is it mainly because East Asia seems to run a more ranged attacker meta style? Because that's what I'm currently seeing. Like, these teams that are running ranged attackers are doing really well here. Then in Southeast Asia, it's more like those melee, in-your-face brawlers where we try and outdo you in these fights. We out-survive you.
I absolutely agree, and we don't even get to see that many Dodrios, especially on this week itself for East
None
Asia.
at all.
Yeah,
I was so surprised.
And as a matter of fact, back in the very first week, we still see the appearance of a couple of Dodrios, but what has remained to be constant are the Snorlaxes as well as some Cypher to be played out. That being said, it definitely varies from the bad, whether you see Urshifu, Mew, or even Sableye, which has been pretty much the cream of the crop picks that whenever it's left available, it will be snatched up.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm expecting Snorlax to get picked up again. I feel like that's more or less a given. Delphox, I mean, we saw it get picked up, but it didn't... I mean, it didn't have the impact I was expecting it to have. So, I mean, Mew at least. I think Mew is going to make another appearance. That seems to be a very popular Pokemon in East Asia, and a lot of teams are having success with it.
Yeah, that's right. And I definitely want to see a whole lot more Mew on how they actually use this Pokemon to their advantage when it comes down to compositions, because Mew actually fits into many different teams in so many ways, where if you want to play her a little bit more supportive or you want to burst them down from the range, it's absolutely feasible. Now, we get ourselves our final game of the evening. T2 now starts on the purple side with that first pick priority, the Octobad Mew. Meanwhile, No Show says no
Sableye, right? We're only seeing the bans for it. And Urshifu is going to be the pick of choice here for T2. Now, No Show, what are going to be their first opening Pokemon for this round? So far, looking to grab that Blissey. I mean, this is... Oh, no, Alola Ninetales. All right, I'll eat my words. And the Eldegoss. No, okay, never mind. They keep tricking me, Contra.
And they have managed to snatch at least one Pokemon away from T2's side. That forces them to change it to something different. So they say, it's okay. You take that Blissey, you can go ahead and have even a little Ninetales. I will now show what my Snorlax can offer to, in return, take one back from No Show.
Hang on. Hey, okay. Mr. Mime. I was so concerned. I was like, are you really going to go for Blissey and Eldegoss? Mr. Mime makes more sense here. So they now, on the side of No Show, you've got access to potentially having a heal if you decide to go for that safeguard. They could still go for Soft Boil if they really wanted to, but the Serena pick on No Show was pretty interesting. Again, I think we talked about this a little bit earlier on in the previous series. Serena's a Pokemon that has struggled in terms of all-rounders, as it doesn't really do as much damage as it used to, but it's great in melee compositions. Now, Urshifu and Snorlax want to be melee, and Scyther generally does as well, although normally he wants to be in your back lines. But Serena's Unite move could delete a Scyther. So, pretty interesting. Well, Cramorat's going to be appearing again.
Oh, they went back for the Decidueye this time around, so...
Why not? Why
this
not? It
is
worked.
looking pretty interesting because, like, I believe it fixes a few issues that they had in that previous composition, with at least the Serena being able to offer more than what the Buzzwole could actually do, and also on top of that, having enough mobility to get in and out of those team fights. So, looking a little bit better, but is it going to be enough to stop T2 from having a two sweep?
Yeah, is it is it going to be enough, right? Like, that's always going to be the question. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, we're jumping into game 3 here between T2 and No Show. Winner of this best of 3 will be walking home with 3 points, whereas unfortunately the loser will only have 1 point for the round robin group stage. And right now, points are really important because it's going to determine where you'll be moving into phase number 2 of the competition. Let's jump into the game here, Contra, and let's see who is going to be our winner.
Well, it boils down to this between T2 as well as No Show. Both WCS competitors just showing their A game throughout the course of the past 2 battles. So it's really down to how fast can they actually get all these EXP for them to get this Decidueye to be very impactful to the game. So far, looking to be quite a good start this time, having that range advantage against T2 on that bottom side. Meanwhile, a little bit of overextension coming from EP. Hopefully not punished. Now they're bringing the third member, and looks like it'll be the first KO. No Show actually gets it a 1-for-1.
Yeah, not really much you could really do in that top lane, especially when your Blissey's still in as a Chansey. And of course, because you have the Decidueye, there's no way that that Pokemon is going to rotate to defend that lane. So I think if you're No Show, you kind of have to just bite the bullet with some of these early KOs. It's going to happen and it's inevitable. The best they can really do is just try to prevent them from happening. But so far, this bottom lane is looking pretty brutal because we have a 3 Pokemon fight here. But no, they weren't able to get the initiation they were looking for.
Yeah, very quickly with the appearance of Little Ninetales, she'll be able to just blast through the Altaria camp. So,
Ippy!
He's doing it again, and these catches are just punishing them so much. T2, they immediately get all these points in. Now taking a slight lead over from No Show. Well, Ajin, he's going to be a little bit stuck for the moment while they try to fend off once again. Blossom's got to be really careful about this, but the constant hook and prodding coming in from this Decidueye is definitely going to be just about good enough as Saul continues to farm some EXP, and Ajin has just got nothing left on the tank.
Yeah, I love the idea. I mean, we spoke about this earlier, right? If you've got a central area Decidueye, you really want to try and pressure the central area, and T2, they kind of tried to do it, but luckily for No Show, no one was able to get knocked out in record time, and so reinforcements are able to come in, and we are starting to see the Serena come online here as it does finally evolve. Unfortunately, we'll be going down here as the Scyther did manage to make that rotation happen, and looks like we've got a 4 Pokemon push here in the top lane for T2. They're looking to break that goal zone, but look down bottom though. This poor Cram, not much you can do against a Ninetales Decidueye lane.
Yeah, and with so much of all these pressure coming in from T2, like I said, they will be able to break open the goal zone, but No Show's gonna be able to get one back. Ajin's pretty low. The stop will come, and if he secures that knockout, but instead gets punished by the Scyther, while Haruka and Co, they are looking for the Regieleki.
Right, so now you're here with a Mr. Mime and Blissey to try and potentially get the steal onto Regieleki. Very unlikely because this is a power swap soft-boiled duo and they won't get the hit at all, but at least they'll be able to survive. I don't see these two going down at all.
Not at all, but they're just going to buy as much time as possible as they've been able to create a little bit of spacing heading over on the bottom, and they've managed to secure themselves that Registeal early on.
That was cute.
T2, they're like, okay, that's just going to take a beat for a little bit. It doesn't really matter. While No Show, the longer this game goes, I believe that they'll have a stronger power spike heading into late game, and T2, they have to do as much as possible in this early matchup.
They got to jump.
Immediately catching to Pokemon being knocked out, and No Show tries to have EP defend them all off and will also be knocked out of this round.
They even used the Galt missile from the Cram as well, just to secure that knockout onto the Serena. But beautiful play from T2. This is what they need to do, especially against a lineup such as No Shows. You've got to dive on top of those very squishy ranged attackers because they really don't have much to protect themselves. They're very, very low on health. They don't have much defenses. But the issue is if you don't knock them out very quickly, they're just going to turn around and knock you out as well, right? So jump on top of them, pop them, eliminate the firepower of No Show, and then you've
got nothing to fear as T2.
Exactly, and No Show, they're still hoping to actually find themselves a little bit more of a gap, and they finally get a catch onto Ruin. How much can he actually run up? The Snowlight has appeared, but here comes Quinn's Ascendant to knock the camera now.
Yep, just to turn him into a little chicken drumstick there. But the fight continues, now jumping into Hibachi. But no, Urshifu is here. That's a Pokemon you don't want to walk into. And they don't have their full 5 lineup. So we're going to back up, play it safe. In the meantime, though, Wiggly's going to be able to score a goal. And actually, in the bottom lane, Epe is going to try and score a 40-pointer. He will be successful. Ruin is a little bit slow. But looks like they're going to be jumping into a fight here. Now, Ruin, he's the only damage dealer here. This is not the best combination up against a Ninetales and a Wiggly. Got Missile is going to be used. They will be using the Unite as well to try and give some shielding to that Cramorant. He's the only one that can really do anything down here. He will get eliminated. But can they turn around and get rid of that Ninetales? It's just being healed. These soft boils are just too strong.
And QQ, he definitely helped them clutch off that matchup, and Reggie have appeared over down bottom. But they're more interested on the fight over the top, and Haruda will be smacked down. And First Blossom still survives out of that, while they will be able to eventually stop the Regieleki. Now, T2, they have congregated, and they will be looking to get their hands on the Reggie, while 1v1 will happen over mid. The arena will try to get as much as she can, while T2, they're already on the Regis, but No Show, they're a little bit late to see. Can they stop T2 though?
Yeah, this one is not such a pivotal Reggie. It's mainly just going to be for EXP, and I think T2 realizing it's just the Regi, so it's not the defense buff or the attack buff. They're just going to leave it. I mean, both teams are just sitting on a 4v4 since we had Haruda in the top lane, and Chobo was also in this top lane fighting Pokemon. But Contra, it looks like it's really just going to come down to this Rayquaza fight. We're not really seeing too much of a gap between these two teams. Queen's Ascendant. Okay. They're going to try and go into Hibachi. Turns around. They managed to get a big heal, but can he escape? He does? Oh, Hibachi.
Hibachi just knew what exactly to do, and still denied a knockout in going to the hands of No Show. Now a little pressure onto T2's goal zone, and they will be able to defend. And you are looking at a 117-point lead for T2. They can hold on for much longer, and within less than 50 seconds from here, we'll see, can No Show overwhelm them on that Rayquaza fight. So it's falling down to the positioning of both the Decidueye as well as the lone Ninetales. So whatever poke damage they can do, they better do it as much as they can to shove T2 back. Regieleki now in favor of No Show. T2 opts to give this one for free.
Yeah, NQ's being such a pain in the backside as this Blue Sea. Like, these constant egg bombs are so annoying with the fact that they do the knockups, the stun. Oh, this Serena being a little bit ahead of themselves. Luckily, will get healed up. But these Pokemon on T2, they are rapidly losing health. And remember, between the two teams, it's No Show that has all the healing, not so much for T2.
Well, they already utilized the knockdown, I do believe. And this is where they won't have that one available for Rayquaza. So No Show, they'll be held back ever so slightly. T2, they see a little bit more of that opportunity. So Ajin, it's rolling down to where can he actually land. A huge heavy slam, and then follow up by a huge unite move. Sal, Epi, they're in position.
No, the push!
That push onto the Snorlax, he wasn't able to do anything, and Urshifu also goes down onto T2. I think this fight might just be over. You've lost your two big frontliners. No Show can just turn around, jump into Hibachi, and look at this Epe. He's just going to start stomping. Queen's Ascendant to secure that knockout onto the Scyther. NQ, that Egg Bomb pushing away the Snorlax was pivotal, but it's not over as of yet. Looks like it's just about to go down, and it's going to be T2! They got the steal! The Cramorant Ruin! He is the one that made the play, but now it's time for No Show. It's time to show your power. Break these shields. Stop these points from going through, but it looks like it's going to be an easy point score here for that Wiggly top down bottom. It looks like Urshifu easy point as well. Nothing Blossom could do. The turnaround, the steal. We thought it was over, but T2 getting the last hit that they needed on the Rayquaza.
My word, we did not really expect them to have enough to surprise No Show, and that was the clutch play that was necessary to revive T2's hopes and dreams alive. And finally, T2 will walk away with a staggering amount of points to secure their very first series win. Sure, there's 20 more seconds left, but this is done for. No show will not be able to hinder them as much as they try. They try to approach to see if they can have 10 seconds to score any more in. They dive right in, but every one of the members of No Show will be stopped as T2 find themselves that series win.
Oh my goodness, No Show just not respecting the bird, the Cramorant. That's the last Pokemon that you'll be thinking that gets the last hit onto the Rayquaza, but Ruin gets the job done, saves the game for T2, and effectively winning them this best of 3 series. Contra, sometimes it really comes down to Rayquaza, and it doesn't matter how, as long as you get the last hit, the game might just be yours.
Ooh, that definitely was a really thrilling battle from both ends, and I really want to bring back to the point where we saw this Decidueye from Saul that utilized the knock pretty early before that Rayquaza fight even happened. Do you think that if he does have it though, would that be a game-changing team fight for No Show to be able to at least get more done in that battle?
Good question. It really depends on how Sal would have wanted to use the knock as well, right? If he wanted to save it for that team fight against T2, or if he maybe wanted to try and save it up for that final hit for Rayquaza. A lot of players use that knock against Rayquaza, although it doesn't 100% guarantee that last hit. It does deal quite a lot of damage, so maybe assuming he had it for Rayquaza, they could have actually knocked it out before Cram could have gotten that last hit. Maybe. But sometimes you just got to use your Unites before the 2-minute mark. It doesn't matter how close to 2 minutes, you've got to save that team fight, and clearly in Sal's mind, he thought that knock before Rayquaza was more important.
I believe so as well. And T2, we see them really thriving on those early skirmishes, and No Show definitely needed a lot more time to skill, and they've definitely pushed their advantages into about 200 over points, and then No Show start to regain a little bit more momentum the moment that they secured that Regieleki as well as the Regis over the bottom side. So they were feeling fairly confident when they do secure a little bit more ground control onto the midsection, especially with Epi being punished for multiple times in that early game. They still found their way back, and I guess like it really boils down to a few factors that have led up to the point, but this was quite an amazing play from Hibachi, and I'm surprised Hibachi got taken out relatively early for this Rayquaza fight.
Yeah, he actually did. But it didn't matter. Ruin survived. He was able to get that final hit. I'm hoping we actually get to see it. I think Hibachi gets Queen's Ascendance here. Like, it was just angry Serena. You can't get away from that, but we don't get to see it. Unfortunate. I wanted to see that last hit.
It's all right. I mean, overall, I think like both ends have definitely shown us the best play that they could have possibly pulled out by the end of the series, and just like what I've mentioned early on, the competition is absolutely stiff here in the Pokemon UNITE Asia Champions League East Asia.
Oh my goodness, Control. What a fantastic way to start the weekend. So East Asia is now officially done, but we're not completely over here, right? We've got Southeast Asia happening tomorrow. We've got India happening on Sunday. I'm happy because we just get to see a whole bunch of Unite over the weekend. I love it.
Yeah, likewise, we're definitely looking forward to what else is in store for us for tomorrow and the day after. So it's been a great Friday, and I definitely thank all of you guys who have been tuning in from start to the finish, or whenever you guys have just popped right in to catch some great Pokemon Unite action. And wow, today has been a lot of exciting picks from all the teams that have been playing those games. We start off with a lot of all these unexpected Pokemons like Garchomp, and then going in for this Decidueye plays from No Show.
Yep.
And I think like there's just a whole lot more to come.
Oh, there's definitely a whole lot more to come, Contra, right? We've got so many weeks more of these group stages, but then of course you've got the second phase, and then most importantly, the grand final. I'm so excited to see the top 6 teams from all the regions just come together and just battle out for the crown. And that's the most important thing. We all love seeing the best players compete against each other. I'm really curious to see how the regions do, right? Is it East Asia that's currently dominating Asia? Is it Southeast Asia? It could be India. We don't know until these teams are put together and are actually fighting it out for that crown. But of course, we are going to take a look very quickly at the East Asia League table here. And Contra, take it away.
Yeah, T2, despite them having a difficult start on week 1 where they were matching up against High Five, they bounced back up. Taking this series win against No Show have put them into the same spot as Eternity, who also have been knocked down by High Five. And we definitely want to see on the next week onwards how much more can No Show offer to lead up to this chase in getting this position before we even get ourselves into the second stage of the East Asia League. So Secret Ship, they may have not played a single game for this Friday itself. Next week, they should be back in action.
Yeah, and then of course we've got High Five. You know, the High Five game up against Eternity. It was a battle of the two winners from last week, and High Five just proved that so far they are the top guns of the East Asia region with a 2-0 victory. Now, this is not to say that Eternity are just some chumps. They are definitely a very talented team as well. It's just that it seems for now High Five are on a whole other level. But Contra, we've had an amazing time here for East Asia, but unfortunately we do have to give this show a close because we've got to welcome Southeast Asia tomorrow with open arms.
That's right. For those of you guys who have definitely fallen in love with these amazing teams and you really want to check out how did they build their Pokemons and everything else that you definitely need to know about the Pokemon Unite Asia Champions League, you can find it on a link down below if you're on Twitch. Of course, you can also get your hands on a lot of all these Pokemon goodies. That includes booster packs, the ones with the tin cans as well, and not forgetting the Pikachu keychain, which I absolutely want for myself. So if you guys are tuning in from all over social media, if you want to consider heading over onto twitch.tv/Pokemon Unite _Asia CL_EN, collect as much points possible, and you can use those points to convert it into something you'll be rewarded in return.
Yeah, so good luck to everybody that is currently competing in our little campaign here. Hopefully you get what you're looking for, because unfortunately all of our goodies are in limited quantity, so there's not going to be a limited number of card packs, tins, and keychains. So make sure you're fast. As soon as you have enough to claim what you want, claim it, because it might not be there tomorrow.
That's right, and of course, there says so little stocks left where everyone's fighting for it today, so you really want to be here as early as possible. Thank you to all of you trainers who have been joining us throughout this run, and also huge thank you and shout out to our amazing sponsors as well. But before even you get to that point, you definitely want to check out this link on the screen for you to keep up to speed with everything to do with the Pokemon Unite Asia Champions League. It'll include East Asia, Southeast Asia, as well as the India region, where all the info is right here, just like a Pokedex, like you said.
Yep, it's got everything. It's got the schedule, it's got the important dates, it's also got the tournament format. So if you ever get lost and you're wondering what's happening with the ACL, that link, that's where you want to go. It's got everything. Bookmark it. I highly recommend it. Make sure you save that link. The Contra, looks like it's going to be the end of the show for today. Thank you so much for casting with me. It has been an absolute pleasure, as always, to be working with the amazing you. But any final words before we close off the show?
Yeah, and I definitely want to thank all of our sponsors for making this possible as well. That would like to thank Meiji, Almond Chocolate, as well as you, Treasure, for bringing us great plays here in the Pokemon Unite Asia Champions League East Asia, and also the entirety of the run. So with that, I hope all of you guys will have a great weekend. We'll see all of you real soon. Till then, have a good night and have a good weekend.
See you tomorrow, trainers.